What we want to do is, all these program is designed about is getting into action. So I want you to yell out some action steps you could already take on what we've covered so far before we go into some more. What's some things you've learned this morning? Just yell out some things that you could immediately take action with. Delegate, yep. And we're going to go into a bit more of that in some detail. But delegation, who else believes they can delegate more? Okay. Remember, two things at work is money at work, so you have to become an investor, or have people at work. That's the two ways to get leverage. And the reason there's not billionaires everywhere like Richard Branson is because the ability to delegate effectively and efficiently is not easy. It's a skill that has to be learned. And most people don't do it, so they don't get any leverage. They're trying to do everything themselves. So delegate is critical. What else? Perfection mentality. Yes, the idea of wanting to be a perfectionist. And we'll talk about that some more as well, about a system, how do we overcome that. So wanting the perfect business or wanting to be in perfection, and we're going to talk about how that relates to the law of diminishing returns. And a perfectionism, you can jot this down, perfectionism is not a high standard, it's one of the lowest standards. That really pisses perfectionists off, but I'm here to speak the truth. Does it make sense? I can sugarcoat things and la-di-da, things will be great, or tell you the truth and make shifts and do what works. Perfectionism is a low standard. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have high standards, but perfectionism is often used as an elaborate justification to not do anything yet because things aren't quite perfect, or to spend all this copious amounts of time on trying to make something perfect when that time should be spent elsewhere. Okay? So we only have X amount of time, 24 hours in a day. True? Okay? So if we're going to be rich, and you're going to start thinking like that if you're not already a millionaire, if you want to be rich and seriously rich, what business can give you, you have to think differently. And your time is your greatest commodity. So you have to treat that differently. And we're going to look at how you can do that. But you have to start doing things differently than most people. Okay? Delegation is a big part of that. Perfectionism is a big part of what causes people to waste time. What else have you learned today already that you can take action with that can make a small or significant difference to your business? Adding value. Who likes the concept of that? Okay. Who would enjoy their business more also if you come from a space of my primary goal is to add more value? Who would enjoy their business more? Okay. And if you enjoy it more, you'll be more successful at it because you want to do it more of the time. Okay. So adding value is critical, but the balance of adding value but also still making a profit. That's why most businesses fail, because they don't meet those two things, or they're in balance, one more than the other. Okay. What else have you learned that you could take action with? Control your finances. So never ever delegate financial control completely. You might still have, I have a CFO, I have accountants, financial controllers. However, I have to keep an eye, because who is ultimately responsible for the success of the company? You. So you have to keep an eye on it. Delegating financial control has cost me more money single-handedly than any other thing I can think of, and cause more damage. So you never delegate control. Even Richard Branson, 400 companies, he will still be monitoring aspects of that financial control, okay? Because he has to still be responsible for it. So you're delegating, but you're still keeping control over those aspects. And with good systems in place, you can do that and keep an eye on things, okay? What else have you learned?
Sell a result.
Sell a result as opposed to selling your time. And that's one of the biggest shifts you have to have, is focus on. So then you want to have a business that you can, ideally it's a product or service that you can sell over and over again. Okay, if you look at one of the greatest businesses on the planet that I think is remarkable, is Apple's iTunes store. You think about that as a business model. It's like sold over 1 billion downloads, ebooks, music, applications, unlimited things. It's just the website. People, and Apple doesn't even put half the stuff on there. Most of it's other people's products created for them, because Apple was into abundance, not scarcity. See, Apple was smart. They opened it up where other people could create applications for their products. Instead of trying to control it and profit everything, open it up, believe in abundance, share, allow other people. And so they've got literally tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people around the world making applications for iPhones or Apple's products and allowing them to profit from that. But it creates such diversity. And so with the iTunes, as far as music in particular downloads, that's a digital business model that's downloadable, high profit margin. Yeah, cash cow. You work for Apple, so you know all about it, okay? So in other words, it's a phenomenal business, and it will grow. And that's, just, who would like a business like that? Low cost, automated, download, massive demand. And we're going to look at that tomorrow in particular, future businesses, how we can learn of some of the most successful companies on the planet. You want to model success, right? So that's critical. What else have you learned that you could action or do things differently in your business? What's that, sorry? Decrease expenses. That should have been one of the top of your list. You make sense? Go for the low-lying rot. The low-lying fruit. The first thing you're going to come into a business, when I buy a company, the first thing I'm looking for is how do I get rid of the expenses? How do I reduce this? Or how do I synergize if you're merging companies to reduce the expenses? But that's the low-lying fruit, because to save $1 is $1 to the bottom line. To often make $1 extra from sales, you have to make, in some examples, 10 times the sales to get that extra same profit. So low-lying fruit, every company has it. That should be some of your homework going back to you. You should be on the phone already during lunch break saying, what else can you do to lower your costs? Okay. Now, the way to lower costs is not so, Jamie, you don't understand, I can't lower costs, just what it is. What you do, and I've done this before, because businesses, as they grow, there's a period where they grow and you're investing in hiring more staff, okay? But then you're pruning. It's like a tree or a shrub. You've got to prune it and cut the dead wood and cut out costs continually. It's like this growth, but cost cutting. Growth and cost cutting. They seem like contradictory things, but they have to go hand in hand, okay? Otherwise, a successful business can still go broke. Okay, grow, grow, grow. Jot this down. Grow, 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 die. Some of the biggest challenge for businesses is if they grow too fast. I've done it in the past, impatient, want to make things happen because we're action-oriented. That's who we are as entrepreneurs. Grow, grow, die. Okay? You don't want to grow things too fast. What you're looking for is, jot this word down. It's very popular these days. Sustainability. Does it make sense? You're looking for sustainable businesses that will continue to grow. You're not looking for pump and dump. Jot that word down, pump and dump. Okay? People with a pump and dump mentality. Now, pump and dump is a terminology used on the stock market. A friend of mine knows all about it, Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street. Who's read the book Wolf of Wall Street? If you haven't read that book, go out and buy it. It's a bestseller. It's a phenomenal story. Leonardo DiCaprio is going to play Jordan in a movie shortly about the Wolf of Wall Street. But there's also some valuable business lessons in there, and what Jordan eventually went to jail for was effectively pump and dump. In other words, they would, boiler room type thing, they would pump up the value of a stock, list a company, because he had 1,000 stockbrokers working for him. They would pump the stock price up, and they would sell their shares, even though they're in escrow. They would foxhole them with other people, and then when the share price is high, get out of the shares, and then they didn't care what happened to the company. Okay, that's called pump and dump. Now, that happens a lot on the stock market. Companies are forced to grow so rapidly because investors like you, retail investors, demand growth. You don't want to buy a company for $1 if it's only going to go to $1.01. You want to buy a company $1, it's going to go to $1.50, and you can cash out, or to $2. You demand growth. So if companies growing too rapidly, they'll often die. Okay, so pump and dump can also mean in the terms of marketing in your business. If you have people that are too aggressive as marketers, it will cause a pump and dump. In other words, it will pump up the sales in the short term, but it's not sustainable and the company can't maintain it, and it will cause problems down the track. Or the marketing's too aggressive and you'll create buyer's remorse or damage the brand. Okay, these things can happen. So you've got to focus and say, how do you grow? But how do you balance that that's sustainable? You also want an organization where people are sustainable. You're looking after the welfare of your team. Some companies push their team so hard, they're exhausted, they burn out, and they leave. So the business might do well for 2 or 3 years, and then it collapses. So jot this word down. The word you're looking for is culture. Now, somebody's saying, Jamie, I'm just starting a small business. Will this ever relate to me? Well, if you're ever going to build a team of leverage and want to become a serious entrepreneur, this affects everything. Even if it's only a small team of 2 or 3 people, even if it's only you to start with. Culture is everything. And you say, well, what's culture got to do with making the bottom line profit? Well, in the short term, very little. In the long term, everything. If you don't manage the culture of a business, it'll start as a business gets bigger, they'll start infighting, politics, and the business will destroy itself. Because people won't get along with each other, they'll be anti each other because the culture's not right. You put people in the bad culture into a company, they'll poison the rest of the good apples. Make sense? Who's worked in companies like this before? The culture in some companies can be toxic and it's counterproductive and it almost can become warfare. Different, especially for me, I've had group of companies. So imagine trying to manage a group of companies, different goals, and trying to manage them with synergy. And sometimes divisions can be at war with each other. You've got to try and minimize that. And one that minimizes that is culture. One of the earliest lessons I learned from my millionaire mentor was, jot this down. He said, Jamie, be slow to hire and quick to fire. Now, I think this applies to personal relationships as well. It's a lesson that took me a long time to learn. Okay, also cost me millions and millions of dollars. Be better at the interviewing process, okay? Be far slower to hire and far quicker to fire. Okay, in the past, I was like way too quick to hire and way too slow to fire. A reflection in my personal relationships reflected in my business relationships. Make sense? I've had to learn some hard lessons. Who can follow what I'm saying here? Okay, go through a divorce or two and you go, there's smarter ways to do this. So business, the same thing. You can go through a divorce with business partners or team members. You've got to have it done correctly. So just what you should do in any business, you go into a partnership. Some of you are saying, well, how do I set up JVs or partner with people or equity share and things like that? One of the rules is, jot this down. I'm just dumping stuff on you now, but it all fits in, is exit strategy. The best time to set up an exit strategy, how if things don't work out in the relationship, is up front while you're still talking to each other. Make sense? It's not, in other words, in a marriage, it'd be called a prenuptial, true? Get the agreement done up front while you actually still can speak to each other. In business, it's exactly the same. Have an exit strategy up front. You're saying, Jamie, yeah, but I don't want it to focus on the negative. It's not going to work out. No, by taking care and not being in denial, what can go wrong and give you more comfort increases the chance and the likelihood of the relationship being successful, whether both personal or in business. Making sense? If you have an exit strategy, that should be documented. It should be documented in the legalized agreement. So when you're building a business rapidly in the beginning, often there's not formalized processes. So you want to formalize things. I used to do things on a handshake because that's the way I was taught. You grow up on a farm, people be their word. Does that always work in business, yes or no? Doesn't work. Does it work in the court system? Yes or no? No. If you need to have formalized agreements. Okay? And if you don't have a lot of money to hire a lot of lawyers, you just pay a lawyer to create a template and you just reuse the templates. Okay? Or you can often get a lot of template agreements you can buy CD-ROM discs, etc., inexpensive these days, do a bit of research, and you can get a lot of basic legal agreements, employee contract agreements. There's websites you can pay money to, and they'll give you all the updated Australian employee contracts, etc., and just use them as a template. Means you don't need to spend a lot of money. The point is you want to formalize things because when things do go wrong, if you have it in agreement, does it guarantee if you have a written agreement and it's signed off that you'll still be protected, yes or no? Doesn't guarantee, but it increases the likelihood of it and it reduces court cases. Because you have a proper legally documented agreement, you're in a stronger position and it reduces things having to go to court and you have better opportunity. So my point is I'm saying in anything you want to do, you want to know your exit strategy up front. Just like if you're starting a business, you want to know what your exit strategy is as well. What are you doing in this business? Are you starting it to build it and sell it in 5 years? Okay? Because when I'll talk about equity and things like that, we're not just talking about income here. We're talking about how you create serious wealth, and I'll teach you the B&S strategy tomorrow, but we're going to go through that so you can look at in detail how you make serious wealth. I mean, who in this room here wants to make $5, $10, $15, $20 million upwards? Who would be interested in making that sort of money? The stuff I'm going to teach you at this event, you can utilize that to make that sort of money. I was telling you before, my former CEO, he came to me about 18 months ago and he said, Jamie, he'd already built one successful business. It made 20, 30 million bucks out of it. He has a harbourside mansion home in Sydney. And he was going to help me take my company public. We ended up pulling that back out of that, which I'm glad I did. Because if you're an owner, when you take a company public, you basically become an employee again. You work for a public company. And I just can't handle that. If it's a company you want to sell off and don't care about, like you don't want to work in anymore, not a problem. But if it's part of what you love to do and intend doing for a long time, it can be a total headache, and no amount of money is worth it. So he come to me and said, Jamie, I've got another business idea. Now, here's how successful this idea is. One, he's an entrepreneur, he's done it before, but he's doing what you should do because he also knows how to make a lot of money. He's not going to work for 5 years in a company to make a couple of $1 million. He's going to build up a business. He has a clear exit strategy in mind, a 5-year goal, and he'll want to make 10, 20, 30 million minimum upwards. Who'd be willing to work for 10, 20, 30 million for 5 years? Okay? If you're an entrepreneur and think on a higher level, this is what you can actually be doing. So he comes to me with this idea, and he's very good at internet marketing and understanding that. And I said, the idea is good. I knew it was good because I said, here's the question, is there a model for this? Is there a company that's really successful with this? And he said, absolutely. He showed me. He said a company called Groupon. Those who know Groupon, Google just offered Groupon $6 billion to buy Groupon, and Groupon said, no, not enough. Thank you very much. So some of you might know what Groupon does. It's just starting here in Australia. So point being, Groupon is an internet-based business, massive demand, and they do discounts. Some of you are already signed up to Australian competitors of these sort of companies, where they'll go to all the local retailers and they'll say, dinner at this restaurant's normally $120. If you're on the online subscription, you get emails every day, deals at special, half price or third of the price. Click on, buy it online. Daily deal type websites. They're huge now. Groupon, valued at $6 billion. So he had a role model. He knew there was a company that had already been succeeded. So all he did, when he talk about how to be successful, copy. Okay? Copy, model. Here's a successful company in the States that's proven it. You may never build a company to catch up to Groupon because Groupon will probably always be number one because it was first into the market. There was probably companies before Groupon that got one in their backs. The pioneers probably got arrows in the back. Groupon come along and said, here's an opportunity, it's partly proven, boom, and they dominate the marketplace. But Groupon never started in Australia. So they left a market, which often is because Australia and New Zealand's considered way out of the world. And this is what, if you want to get rich, this is one way you do it. I was going to teach you this tomorrow, but would you like to know it now? Yeah. Okay. Here's how many Australian entrepreneurs have become rich. They simply do this. Once a year or twice a year, they go to America. They go to America on a holiday, but they look around. They look at the trends. Jot this down. They're looking for trends. They're looking for businesses. They're looking for things that are successful. Why? Because what happens in America tends to then come out to where? Australia and New Zealand, other countries. If it's proven and working in America, you can often replicate it in Australia. So this is the way many people made millions and millions of dollars on a small business or a big business. You would know a business called Bunnings. Is that true? Yeah. Bunnings. All they did was they went to America and they went to Home Depot. Home Depot was the Bunnings of America. Hugely successful, just big warehouses full of stuff, and people go there and buy the stuff. It's still wrapped up on the pallets, effectively half the stuff. And they go, my God, this is huge. Everyone's going to Home Depot. Why don't we do one of these? Now, a lot of American companies, you can go and approach them and ask for the licensing rights for a lot of their products as well. And they'll often give it to you for free for Australia because they think Australia is so far away and insignificant marketplace. So often you just go and get the rights to products that's already proven for free or a small amount of money and market them in Australia and make a lot of money. So they come back, the idea Home Depot, they couldn't copy and call it Home Depot, of course. They had to change a few things. They changed and call it Bunnings. But they modeled the same system and everything. They knew it already working. Now, if you want to go and get capital for a business plan, does it help to already have a model to come off? That's why Bunnings were able to raise capital, and they were confident, more certain that the business would be successful. Now, here's a mistake most people do. They fall in love with their product. Oh, I've got this world's greatest product. I'm going to spend all my time creating this product. And then they go, okay, now I need to know how to market it. Well, I don't know how to market it. So then they go and do some research. Then they got to find out, is there a market for their product? Make sense? That is the wrong way to do something. It's like reverse. You don't go and put all the time into a product, etc., all this time, and then hope there's a market. Because you might love the product, that's great, but does the rest of the world love the product? That's a different story. It's a different question. It's not what you love, remember? It's what clients want. It's what the market demands. So it's a smarter way to build a business. If you're thinking of any ideas or changing business or looking at how do you expand your business like Apple did, You should be going, find me the demand. Find me the marketplace first. What is there a marketplace for? Then go away and think, how can I create a product or service to meet that marketplace? Because you know there is a demand already there, and if you get it right, you're going to make money. Making sense? As opposed to the other way around, spending all the time on a product and then going, is there a marketplace for this? Maybe not. Maybe I should have checked that up front. Who's following what I'm saying here? That distinction, if that's all you get and you do it the right way, how much more valuable is that to you? You can make millions from that. By finding the marketplace first. Now, Lou will speak to you tomorrow night on internet marketing. Because the future is around internet, and most businesses you're going to build are going to be online businesses in the future. I'll give you a clue. But that's the first thing they do. Internet marketers, they go and search, what are people looking for? What is the demand? And they will create a product to fill the marketplace, as opposed to create a product and try and find a marketplace. Now, unless you're brilliant like Steve Jobs and a multi-billionaire, you can go to the next level where you build a product and then you educate people about why they need it, and you create a new marketplace. That is the ultimate level. That's what Apple does. Does it make sense? I mean, who the frig really needs an iPad? Think about it. Do you really need an iPad? No, but if they educate and pump because it's cool, it's sexy, looks good, and trendy, people want one because they want to be the first to get it. So I was one of the first to get it. You know, I'm out there getting my iPad. I don't even use technology, but I still want an iPad. No, I can't remember the last time I've used it, but I've got one. And guess what? When the next one comes out in a few months, I'll probably buy it. Why? Because you want the latest thing. So even if you don't have a demand, they create a demand for it. Making sense? And so they re-educate, and they create now with the iPad, a whole new industry. The tablet computing. They're basically dominating, creating that industry, which didn't exist there before. But that's the highest level, when you got the marketing prowess and the brand, where you're basically saying, well, even if people don't want it, we're going to educate them so they do want it. Making sense? But you don't have that brand power and the resources of Steve Jobs, so you're going to go, let's do it a little bit safer. Let's create a product or service for the marketplace. Okay? Now, you don't even have to necessarily create the products or services. You can just go and get the rights to them and license them, get other people's products or services. We can look at that tomorrow, but there's a whole avenue there. My point is, Bunnings, major success story, simple business model. They didn't invent it. They didn't come up with the idea. They just modeled, saw something working, and then got first to market in Australia. Now, Bunnings is number one in that industry. Who's number two? You probably don't even know, do you? Who knows? You know Bunnings is. Okay, in Australia, Bunnings has got the market. There might be number two and number three might still do all right, but they're never probably going to replace Bunnings because they got to the market first in Australia. Making sense? Hardware houses, yeah.
Then Bunnings bought them out and painted the green.
Yeah. They become bigger, okay? So you see the point of that, and same thing in New Zealand, different companies did the same, I think Warehouse, whatever it's called, and same thing. So you can see the opportunity that's here. If that's all you just say, well, I'm going to go to America and I'm going to get ideas, okay? You want to be ahead of the trend, but does it give you more certainty? You don't have to be going, I hope my business model works. You don't have to hope. You already know it works. So you have a greater degree of certainty. You're going to put more time and effort in it. You're going to be able to raise capital better. You're going to be able to sell the business for a lot of money down the track. And Bunnings was sold, I think, to Wesfarmers or whatever for a large amount of money. Okay. So my former CEO, what he did, he come to me. I didn't actually put the money in at the time because I was investing in my other companies. $500,000 for 10% of the company. Okay. A private company is a little bit risky, but he was raising seed capital, ended up raising a couple of mil. That company already is worth 50 mil. His biggest competitor, which his company is bigger or slightly bigger than, Channel 7 just bought for 50 mil. Okay, so he already knows he could probably cash out now. He still owns the majority of that company and sell it for 50 mil and probably pick up 20, 30 mil for 2 years' work, not even 5 years yet. But I'd say knowing him, he'll want to go and get it where he might be able to hopefully get it up to make 100 to 200 mil sale and make some serious money. Who's following what I'm saying there? Now, we're talking an internet business here, an internet business model set up, structured the right way, raising capital, putting a board in place, getting some good management teams, and away they go. And they're already cash positive. Okay? Is that exciting? That's playing at the higher level, okay, making a lot of money. You say, well, Jamie, that's all right for people who want to make tens of millions of dollars. Christ, I just want to make a couple of $100,000 extra a year. I'll be happy. It's going to break it down and do it on a smaller scale. I'll give you some examples of that tomorrow. okay, of how you can do it. Anything, you don't have to say, well, if we're modeling Steve Jobs at Apple, how do you expect us to build another Apple? It's not what I'm suggesting. But who here would like to be 1% as successful as Steve Jobs? You can't spend all that money. Okay, 1% successful as Richard Branson. You're not going to. That's what we're talking about here. All you have to do is say, where you're playing the game at now in business, how do we get you to output? How do you play it at a higher level? Because then that means more abundance, more etc. And what's great about this is most people do not have these skills. They do not know this information. They do not, then if they do, they don't know how to action it. So it's a unique competitive advantage by having this sort of knowledge. And being an entrepreneur, as a successful entrepreneur, because most people fail, that's why the rewards are so great. Okay, exponentially great. Who's excited, by the way? Okay, so there is a lot to learn as we go through those things. So here's what I'll do. I'll share you a story. Just on that, was there any other action steps that you've already committed to taking? That's a fair few. We just did all those things that we talked about. Okay, so my mother decided to buy a coffee shop. Now, in the Internet Home Study, I talk about this story, I think, but it's an important story because my mother, like a lot of people, got bored. She lived on the farm, being a farmer's wife. She'd worked on and off at different times. But most women in the rural communities, what they do is they usually catch up and go for coffee. That's what women do in the country. And so she started working at a coffee shop in a small town, Glenna, 6,000 people. She noticed after a while that she enjoyed that social interaction, catching up with her friends, etc., and getting paid $500 or $600 a week, guaranteed salary. She then decides, I could do this better. Why don't I buy the coffee shop and have my own business? Sounds like a great plan, doesn't it? Okay. And so she decides the business comes up for sale and she decides to buy the business. I can't remember the exact figures, but you're probably getting close to 100 grand. She had to pay for a small coffee shop. So my dad wasn't too keen on this idea, but he agreed to go to the bank and they took a mortgage out against the farm because banks know businesses. They're not going to loan you money for a business without security. Make sense? Unless it's a solid business. True? Because banks know businesses are highly risky, especially traditional businesses. So they borrow the $80,000 or $100,000 for the coffee shop, just a small coffee shop in the main street of Glenniness. At the time, I didn't realize this, though, they also had the opportunity at the same time to buy the building the coffee shop was in. But my dad's from the old school and was like, well, already borrowing enough to buy the business, I don't want to go into more debt and buy the building. A classic mistake. Does that make sense? Because what's the greater risk, the business or the building? The business is the greater risk. Borrowing for the building is fine. It's commercial. You buy at a good price. It's a commercial property. Because what I do if I buy a building and you have businesses, one thing you can do, you simply do this. Okay, it's a quick way of making money. If you put your own, what she could have done was buy the coffee shop. Let's say the building was going to be whatever it was. She can put her business in it, which is already there. She can immediately increase the what? Rent. By increasing the rent on the coffee shop, automatically increases what? The yield, and thus the value of the commercial building. Because commercial buildings are 90% of their value is based on their rental yield. Not like residential, where a lesser percentage is based on the rental yield and the location, the quality of property. Massive amount is based on the rent. So after this, I didn't realize, the mum said, you should have borrowed to have bought the actual business and the coffee shop, the actual building that it's in, not just one, because your debt would have been more safer and you could have just increased the rent and that's all it did. Your business is worth more. You can resell the business at a later date, okay, or however you want to do it. But she didn't do that, okay? Does that make sense? So often if you're in business, what you should be looking at doing is investing in commercial real estate as well. A lot of people, what they'll do is they won't increase. They will say, well, do I want to tie up capital in buying buildings when I can put that capital into growing the business? That's a decision that you'll have to make. But I think long term, I think you should look at, if you're going to have a business that has premises, I think you're better off eventually owning the business, owning the building. Who would agree with that? Okay, it's a good solid investment. Now, of course, your company, are you going to buy the building with your company that's trading the business? No, it's going to be in trust, it's going to be separate, and it's a separate entity. So that separate entity can charge whatever rent it likes. That's going to have to be commercial to some degree. You can add value, but by increasing the rent, you're increasing the value of your building. Then if you want, you can resell your the trust asset at a higher value because it's worth more. Okay? Or at least eventually the profits from your business is at least the rent's paying off your asset. And if the business failed after 5 years or 10 years, at least you've got a commercial building left. Making sense? Now, a lot of people wish they'd known that 10 years ago. Okay? At least you're building up your assets. And now what you're doing is not just being an entrepreneur, you're being an investor. Because the idea, I had a friend that he got it all wrong, the wrong way around. He built up a large number of property portfolios here in Melbourne, about my age, and really successful in real estate, but not as good in business. He wasn't as passionate as me. He was still okay. He built 3 or 4 companies, but not as passionate, really didn't want to do it. And he employed a lot of staff, paid them ridiculously high salaries, $100,000 plus salaries for a large amount of his people. And I said, and suffered this issue, what my mum did. He simply wasn't comfortable charging enough. He didn't charge his clients enough, and there was no profit in what he was doing. So he was using his profit from his investing to fund his business. And I said, you've got it the wrong way around. Your businesses should be funding your investments. Does that make sense? Not the other way around, okay? Your businesses should be funding your investment unless it's a hobby, unless it's a charity. And even then, you don't want it bleeding you cash, okay? So what my mum did is she bought the coffee shop. So after a while, she was struggling with it because she'd never run a business before. It's a different experience. Before she could get a guaranteed paycheck, go home, no stress. Now she wasn't even taking a paycheck for a while. She was working all the stress of meeting payroll. You work in a restaurant out of 6 days, let's say. It's probably not until the 6th day of the week before you hope to make any profit. The first 5 days are really just paying off, you know, the overhead, etc. So every day, every week you start back at 0 or below 0, and you have to work and make enough to get up to 0. And then hopefully the last day or the last setting of a restaurant for the week, you make a profit. Okay, not too exciting. So the moral to the story, eventually she come asking for help. And I said, Mum, the interesting thing is, despite people paying me millions of dollars a year for my advice, you probably won't even take my advice. I'll tell you what I would do if I owned the business, what I'd do differently. But you probably won't do it anyhow. Okay? So here was my advice to her. And now the advice to, I would say to most entrepreneurs is the same. Now this is, we're talking a traditional business here. But apply to any type of business that you're in, really. I said, here's the first thing I would do. I said, the first thing you need to do is, 1, remember the key organizing principles. You've got to add value and make a profit. My mum was adding value. She knew most of her clients, small town, and adding massive value. Was she making a profit? Bugger all, okay? I don't know the exact numbers, but something like this. Let's say she was doing $15,000 a week in turnover. Okay? And out of that, she was struggling to take $500 a week home. She was making more when she was working there on a salary. Okay? Struggling to make $500 a week in profit. So the problem is this. She's doing all this work in making a little profit. I said, Mum, really think the ladies that come into your coffee shop, if they knew the stress you're in and the struggle you're in, to give them a cup of coffee where you're making no money, they would actually pay more just because they would feel bad about you providing this great service but not making any money. I said, it's not a happy balance. You have to add value, which you're doing, but you also have to make a profit. Otherwise, you're not going to be around to continue to add value. I said, here's what I would do. You probably won't do it, but this is what I'd do. First of all, I would put your prices up by 10% immediately. You want to jot that down. Put your prices up by 10% immediately. Now, I'm not just talking to my mum here, am I? We share reasons because share stories, because stories are a way that we learn about ourselves. What I'm suggesting is what my mum wasn't doing. She wasn't charging enough, and the reason most businesses fail in this country is they're not charging enough. There is exceptions that charge too much. Okay? I'm not saying you should rip off that sort of thing. I'm saying you need to charge more. Most people do not charge enough what they're worth because it comes from a self-worth issue. They feel uncomfortable in charging. It's like, you know, we do a great job and someone says, oh, how much is it? And it's our friends or something say, oh, you know, it's normally $100, but just 20 will do. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, the reason I know subconscious my mum would be resistant to putting prices up is like, but what if I do and people reject me? You know, other people don't come to my store. Won't be loved, so to speak. You see, if people worry what other people think, it's going to affect their ability to make an intelligent business decision, what they simply need to do. I said, Mum, if you don't put your price up, you're going to go broke. And you're going to create a lot of stress. You need to put your prices up. I said, do you think people really care if the cup of tea is $1.90, or $2.10? It's insignificant. It makes very little difference. Most of your customers won't even notice and won't even care. And I said, the ones that do, guess what? Great, you don't want them. Putting the price up will sometimes qualify your clients and send the ones that are sending you broke to your competitor and let your competitor go broke, providing them $1.90 cup of tea. Make sense? Who's following what I'm saying here? It has to be a win-win situation. You should add value to your business, improve what you do, but charge more. Otherwise, you're saying, why would people, let me ask you the question. Let's reverse on you. You're all consumers. You're all customers. If you wanted to go out on a first date, why don't you take your girlfriend or your partner on your first date? You're trying to impress them. You want to have a really successful night, really do well, close the sale. Why don't you take, on a first date, your partner to McDonald's? Why don't you? Because it's not going to get you the what? It's not going to get you the result, okay? You say, well, but Jamie, it's cheap. Everyone wants something cheap. No, people don't want something cheap. Does it make sense? McDonald's is when you want something cheap and easy. But why do we have high-class restaurants or restaurants that charge a lot of money? Why? Because you're happy to pay a lot more money at times because it's not about the price, it's about the service. It's about the value proposition that's been added. So some people go, Jamie, you don't understand. If I put up my price, my competitors will win. Well, if you're in an industry where you're going lower price, race to zero, if you're in that price war, change your business or change your marketing offer. Because you're competing on price. If you're competing on price, jot this down. You are screwed. You're not in charge of your business. Your competitors are. You are screwed. Now it doesn't mean you have to change business. It just means you have to change the way you market. You have to change your value proposition. Make what you do unique, that it's different to your competitors. That's why they pay more. Or the man might pay more, but it's something unique, better value. Or you do something about your margins so you can make better margins. And then you can afford to beat your competitors because you have a better, lower cost base. Like Virgin Planes, Virgin Blue. They're able to undercut Qantas by lowering their cost base model. They were cheaper because Qantas was a full service plane. So what did Qantas have to do? They brought out what? Jetstar. Hired overseas pilots, overseas staff, changed the different working union, got around the union to lower the cost. And Jetstar now is an incredibly successful company. Actually, often it's actually made more profit at times than Qantas. And that's pinched Virgin now in the middle in the Australian market. Okay? They're not the lowest cost carrier. So Virgin's now stuck trying to capture the corporate market and they're sort of stuck in between. Okay? And that's affected Virgin's proposition. But when they were first to market with that, they were the low cost carrier. Making sense? So you have to have a competitive advantage and do something unique. So otherwise, you're pretty much screwed because you're outside control. Other things are dictating your price, okay? And then you can't profit. So I said to my mum, you need to put your prices up because what this does will qualify the clients. You have a few less clients, it doesn't matter. So let's do some numbers on this because we're going to go into some detail later about this. Let's say she puts her prices up by 10%, okay? And that increases her revenue per the week for $1,500. Now, here's the interesting thing. That extra $1,500, most of that is actually profit, because she's already funding the rent and the staff and the infrastructure. Apart from the food, most of it's profit. Let's say 1,000 of that is extra profit. Make sense? Now, here's the difference. She's only increased the price by 10%. But that extra $1,000, she was struggling to make $500 before. Okay? She now is making $1,500 a week with that extra $1,000. How much percentage increase has she made to a bottom line? How much? She's went from $500 a week to $1,500. 300% increase? Now, here's the difference. A 10% increase in the price is not a 10% increase in the profit, is it? It's a massive 300% increase in a profit. So when we're talking about the golfer, 100,000 a year to $1 million a year, one shot every 18 holes, that's the one shot. Now, there's a few other shots that we're going to go through in detail at the moment. But for most people, they are not charging enough. And that's just shifting that. Also, then my mum would be making more money. Would she be better at serving the clients better? Yes or no? She'd have more time to be more creative and add new things to the menu, make it a better experience because she's focused on then adding more value rather than just stress and taking away from her health, taking away from the experience. And that's the shift. Most people don't charge enough because it's a self-worth issue, okay? Jot this down. Your level of income will rarely exceed your level of personal development. Your level of income will rarely exceed your level of personal development. So that's why the leaders of the organization, you, have to be continually growing, developing yourself. Because most limitations in your business are not the economy, it's not the government, it's not your customers. It is who? It is who? You. You are the biggest limitation in your company. Now, that's a good and bad thing. The good thing about that is if you accept that and do something about it, boom, you can have 300% increase in your profit. Okay? Let me give you a story. We're in the city of Melbourne, right? Docklands. I used to live, when I lived in Melbourne, in Docklands. Now, here's an interesting story. I used to live on the other side of Docklands, and in Docklands, when I was in Melbourne, I would go there, and there was a particular restaurant on one side of Docklands that was empty. It's nearly always empty. Now, if you go and ask that owner of that shop why it's empty, he's go, well, this side of Docklands not much traffic, it's just hasn't really taken off what they expected, blah, blah, blah. Okay? He would blame all the external circumstances why his business isn't booming and he doesn't have lots of cash flow coming to him. Because it's the economy, it's the location, it's just whatever it is. Okay? Now, the reality is none of those things. Those things can have a determinant on it, but the biggest thing, 90% of it, is him. Because I have another friend that owns a restaurant in Docklands, and he can't fit enough people in. He is booming. Business is booming, and it's because of him. He's the catalyst. He knows nearly everyone there by name. He's like their father figure, great guy, and you just love going to... Whenever I'm in Melbourne, I always go there, and I always take my friends there. So I'm a raving fan of his business. How do you create that culture? One, he has a brilliant menu, one of the best dishes in Melbourne. Okay? He's a great guy. He takes the time to get to know everyone, and he has good staff, and he has a good experience. And as a result of that, his business is booming where he can't sit enough people and is hugely successful. He also loves his business and he enjoys it. Same area, same city, where the other guy is struggling and complaining, and who's following what I'm saying here? That's the difference in most businesses, is the person, is the change in what they do. And by one person being abundant and having lots of cash flow, can be right next door to someone that's going broke. Repeat after me. Something to think about. Turn to the person next to you. Teach them what you've learned so far and how does that apply to you. My question is, are you charging enough? And when are you putting your prices up? Now you say, Jamie, I don't have a business yet, so that doesn't relate to me. Bullshit. You work for someone. Putting your prices up is negotiating a pay rise. True? Is negotiating a pay rise. I hate teaching this part when I have a team in the room because I always get pay rise offers. I want a pay rise. No, it doesn't apply to you. I'm talking to you guys, okay? So, how do you negotiate a pay rise? It's the same thing. You negotiate here, you're negotiating pay rise with your customers or negotiate with one client, your employer. Okay, I want you to think of that. Jot down how much are you going to increase your prices by and share with your buddy, okay, the person next to you. And then I'm going to take some questions on this because some of you might have questions. Go for it quickly. Okay, raise your hand if you're committed to increasing your prices. Does anyone feel they can't raise their prices? Yep. What business? You and Mike?
It's a franchise business, so the franchise sets the price.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to sometimes happen. Even though technically there's an ACCC laws will say they're not allowed to set the price. So, yeah, there's ways they have to legally get around it because the ACCC doesn't like that price setting. So, yeah, in some industry, you basically you don't control the price; it's controlled by the owner of the franchise system. Yep. Okay. So outside of that, though, if you control your own business, you then have the ability to increase the prices. Make sense? Okay. Now, I'm not saying increase and overcharge. What are we doing? We're going to increase the prices, but what are you going to do more of?
Add value.
You're going to add value. Okay. By adding value, then you can charge more. It's just like a fine dining restaurant adds more value than McDonald's. That's why you're happy to pay more, because it's not always about price. You don't always want the cheapest thing. You sometimes want the best quality thing, and you're happy to pay more. So never assume that price is the issue. Generally, the price is the bigger issue for the owner of the business than it is for the customer. Make sense? It's because a lot of people look through the world through their eyes. So their eyes is like, well, this is all I can afford, so that's all I'm going to charge based on what I can afford. My cousin used to work for a very famous artist, and it's a phenomenal story how he did this. I'm trying to remember his name. He's a billionaire, most successful living artist on the planet. He lives in the UK. Can anyone think of his name? Not Rolf Harris, no. Does anyone know the art world? The only successful living artist that's a billionaire from art. Not Francis Bacon. Who can think of this guy's name? He sells pickled sharks and horses and bulls. I'm trying to remember his name. He lives in the UK. Come on, guys. You don't know anything about the art world? The most successful living artist on the planet. David someone. I think, trying to remember.
I'll Google it.
Just someone Google it. Like, you're not seeing the pickled shark, like a shark in a glass cabinet that's worth $6 million?
Why is it worth $6 million?
Because the exact point of this, okay? He is the only artist in the world that can run his own art shows and doesn't have to go through agents, because he reshaped the industry and said, I don't need art agents to take 40% commission because I'm so well known, people will come and buy my art regardless. So 18 months ago, Damien Hirst, very good. Damien Hirst is a multi-billionaire from art. Now, how Damien started is he wanted to take the piss out of the art world. Basically, he said, well, how can people charge or pay so much for art? So his first piece of art he created, I don't know what it was, but he put it out to an auction. And what he realized, it's all about price setting. Most artists are broke, right? There's an element of somehow that industry, they're creative, but they're broke because they just haven't developed. It's just that it's a culture in that industry. Often artists are broke, right? Let's say do something different. So what he did is he wanted to do something different, just basically take the piss out of the art world and say, how can people put a value on something? Why would some people pay $2 million for something someone else wouldn't even pay $20 for? You know, the value of art is very interesting, but what you've got to understand, jot this down, art is all about prestige buying. Make sense? I mean, why do people buy a Lamborghini or Ferrari when you can buy a car that's cheaper? Well, Jamie, you say, well, obviously because a Ferrari or Lamborghini is a better quality car. I'm happy to pay more for it. True? Okay. But the point is, why do that when you can buy a Getz for like $15,000? Why would you spend $500,000 on a Lamborghini? Well, there's a difference, isn't there? There's prestige, but it's also the quality of the car. There's something different. So in a lot of marketing, the point is a lot of artists, the reason they don't succeed is because, one, they're trying to start out, they don't have a lot of money. So they're desperate for money, so they'll put a lower price on their art. Or they see the world through their eyes, the way they see what's expensive, what's not. See, what you may think is pricey or expensive, someone else may not. If someone's rich, money's not so much what something's worth, is different. What's worth more is their time. So people pay a lot of money to save time. Jot that down. You say, how do you charge more? People pay a lot of money to save time. And two, what this is leading to, if you're going to sell a business or product or service, sell to the people that have money. You have the greatest product, but you're pitching it to people that don't have the money. Even though they love the product, they can't afford it. So there's a mismatch, and what a lot of people do is they try and compete, or they see the world through their own eyes, or don't have a lot of money and people can't afford a lot. That's the people they surround themselves with. So they charge based on what they think people can afford, and they pitch the product to the wrong market. When if you pitch, one of the reasons Jordan Belfort built the Wolf of Wall Street, one of the fastest growing stock firms back in his heyday, was that he was selling penny stocks, the penny stocks idea where you ring up, telemarketing brokers ring up and sell the cheap stocks that no one's really trading in and make a profit by doing that. He said, why would I pitch that to people that don't have money? That's what most stockbroking outfits would do. You start in Wall Street, you get the yellow pages, and you have to cold call. And then when you get a warm client, you pass it on to the senior broker, and they get to make more of the money. Okay, they're basically highly paid telemarketers that have to do, Harvard degrees to even get in there. So, but they were selling to people that didn't have the money. He said, well, if you're going to do this, why? You would sell to people that are rich. Because rich people buy shares, and they'll buy lots of them, and they can afford it. Making sense? You would sell your product to the people that can afford what you're offering. Making sense? Because otherwise you're going to stuff your business up. If you're trying to sell a product, people can't afford to buy it. No matter how great your product is, they just can't afford it. Okay? And what you're going to understand, is there a lot of money in the world, yes or no?
Yes.
We are talking the abundance model. So there's two types of ways to look at the world. In economics, we're taught economics is the study of scarce what? Scarce resources. That is the scarcity model. The abundance model is that we have unlimited resources. There's not a lack of resources on the planet. Now, people have opposing beliefs of what they believe to be true. Let me give you an illustration. There was once some black sludge coming out of the ground in Texas. What was it? Oil. The black sludge had no value until human brains got an idea and figured out how to turn that black sludge into an energy source. All of a sudden, something that had zero value now become the most valuable commodity on the planet. Make sense? But people will say, well, we do live in a scarce world because we're running out of oil. And in the 1970s, the world was freaked out by an energy crisis, remember? Well, some of you remember. Okay. Energy crisis. They thought the world had 12 years left of oil supply. Early 1970s, civilization was going to end. But they didn't factor in that they would create more fuel-efficient cars. Okay, fuel-efficient carburetors that would double the fuel capacity, that would be able to run on the same fuel that much longer. They didn't think of all this technology. They didn't think of the technology where they would be able to realize, my God, there's a lot more oil on the planet than we think. Okay, and it wasn't even, now once again they say the world's running out of oil, but when the oil prices got so high, guess what they found? They started the oil shale type reserves, now viable to take oil out of, all the tar sands, etc. In the past it wasn't. Okay, we say, well, we'll eventually run out of oil. Or will human ideas, unlimited resources, infinite capabilities, be able to turn other resources into viable energy? Well, we want to hope so, okay? But often, once the money's there for it, it's viable, something so expensive, it forces the change into something more expensive. One of the reasons we haven't had a lot of solutions to that as a problem in the commercial markets is because there's so much money in oil. Why would the people that control the oil want to create an alternative supply straight away and release it and devalue their reserves? Would you if you owned the oil supply? If you had $100 billion worth of oil, would you want to create an invention that makes that $100 billion worth of oil worth nothing? Well, if you did, you want to at least keep it, you release it. It's like the iPad 2. You hold it back, okay? And you release it at a later date. So the point is, what I'm saying, whether you believe there's scarcity model or the abundance model, it's really your choice the way you look at the life. Is this glass half empty or half full? Same glass, different way of looking at it. Is it true? Now, if you want to be wealthy, which model do you think you should look at? Scarcity or abundance? Abundance, okay? In other words, you understand there is unlimited amount of money on the planet. There's people starving on the planet. Is it from a lack of food, yes or no? It's not from a lack of food. Is it people that are broke on the planet? Is it from a lack of money? There's an abundance of money. There's trillions made. If you run out of money, don't worry, the Federal Reserve in the US keeps printing off trillions. There's the money supply is increasing at a rampant rate. There's lots of money out there. So what I'm trying to highlight, you as an entrepreneur, as an atom in amongst this world, global economy, whether you have a lot of money flow to you or a little, is predominantly up to you. And predominantly after what you go for. There is a lot of money in the world, and a lot of people with a lot of money that will pay for quality, will pay for prestige, will pay to save time. Damien Hirst, he didn't want to be like a normal artist, even as a joke to make a mockery of the art world. He, instead of releasing his first piece of art for like $1,000 because he needed the money, or a couple of $1,000 like a lot of artists do, because once they put a low price on it, that art's not worth a lot. Do you make sense? It's devalued the art. Now, if you're an art collector, are you going when you have a black tie dinner event at your mansion? Are you going, you're not going to believe I was in Australia and I picked up on this marketplace a painting for $550. I couldn't believe the bargain I got. Here it is. Not quite how the world works, is it? I bought this amazing piece of art for £2.5 million. Ta-da? Make sense? Now that's impressive. True? The price actually values it in its sense. So what he did, Damien Hirst, how he started his career, he created this, what do they call, contemporary art or whatever. I don't know what it was specifically. And he sold it at an auction. To set his benchmark for who he was, an up-and-coming artist, he had people that he knew to bid for the artwork. Basically, it was his own money. He was bidding for it. And they bought the artwork and put a price on it and bid at it for, say, it was a couple of £1 million. First piece of art. Because it was one of the top sales at the particular auction, afterwards, there was other art buyers that were interested, phoned, and then they paid a higher price for it to get that piece of art for an up-and-coming artist to get such a high price for his work. That set a benchmark for his prices, and if you know Damien Hirst, he sells so much art. He is the most successful living artist on the planet. He's a billionaire. Makes incredible amounts of money. And he does. Like, he went to Australia and he paid for a great white shark, had it pickled, put it in a glass box. That is art. Sold for millions of pounds. A horse, the bull, all that sort of stuff. It's worth an absolute fortune. Why? Because some rich people on the planet have nothing better else to do with their money than buy that stuff. And when you walk into you imagine walking into the cigar room in a mansion. Oh, by the way, here's a great white shark in a glass cabinet looking at you. You know what I'm saying? Has perceived value. Now, you might say, I'm not going to pay £6 million for that. Well, Damien Hirst tapped into, remember, the right market. He wasn't trying to sell. He wasn't seeing the world through his eyes as a broke artist. He was seeing the world through, there's a market out there will pay unlimited money if you give them what they want. And what they want is something unique, something that's rare, etc., that has value. And that value is often based upon price, predominantly. Making sense? Now, what the hell has that got to do with your business? Well, I'm going to suggest to you, your current business or your future businesses, who are you selling to? Who are you selling to? Because your clients have to be able to afford your product. If they can't, doesn't matter how great a market you are, you're just going to have problems, true? So if you want to make more, you want to charge more, often better off going into a higher marketplace. Or what you can do is you split price. A lot of companies will have dual pricing for different markets. Okay? You can create a different market, segment your market. You fly on an airline. Why do some people pay 4 times the price to sit up the front? Same airlines, same air. Okay? Because 1, prestige. 2, yeah, they can, because money's not such an issue. And 3, they more legroom, it's more comfortable, more quality service. So they can charge front of the airline, 4, 5, 6 times what you pay at the rest of the seats. But that's because they're segmenting their market, different prices for different people. Not everyone wants the cheap economy seat. Making sense? So what you're going to look at also when you go through your business, how do you segment your market? How do you cater for people that have more money? i.e. VIP service. Do people want VIP service? Do they want platinum service? They want a different service. You want a different value add, a different proposition for the client that can afford that and wants that specific proposition, a particular product or service. Making sense? Repeat after me. Something to think about. The leaders in your industry are probably already doing this, or leaders in other industries. These ideas come from researching, seeing what other people are doing. Don't being so caught up in making a living or so preoccupied with your own business, you're not seeing what's going on in the world. Otherwise, you're not going to see the trends that are coming. You're not going to be a leader, you're going to be a follower. And you're probably going to get, your industry can come and go because you haven't seen or preempted what's possible. Making sense? So the price is everything. So are you putting your price up? I'm going to suggest you're going to say, how do I add more value and charge more for it? Or how do I segment my products or services so I can charge more for certain products and services and maybe less for different markets? Okay? And that's why there's all different makes and models of cars. Not everyone wants a Holden or Ford. Some people want to pay a lot more for a car. Okay? What else? So as far as charging more, everyone's comfortable with that? Because that's all you do. You'll go out here now if you want to negotiate a pay rise. How would you negotiate a pay rise? The same thing what you're going to do. You are going to increase the value that you add to your employer. And how do you get a pay rise or promotion? How about you go and put a proposition and say, here's the deal. I would like to be promoted to this role, and I'm willing to work for a free trial. Jot the word down, free, because by tomorrow, you're going to talk about free so much, it's going to reshape the word, what you think free is. Okay? And offer a free trial, which is a risk what? Risk reversal. Risk reversal. You're saying, Jamie, how's this apply to my business? Everything. We're talking about marketing right now, risk reversal. You're offering something, you're taking away the risk. I'm willing to work in this promoted role for X amount of weeks or months at no extra pay. Just to prove to you that I'm capable of delivering. I meet these KPIs, then you will agree to giving me a pay rise and promoting me full long-term into that position. Make sense? It's a risk-free offer. There's more chance to get a pay rise or be promoted to a role, or you can just negotiate a pay rise. If you're very valuable, see, what you're going to understand, no matter how generous employer you work for, they don't wake up every morning and go, when they're trying to manage their businesses, etc., and go, oh, I feel like I'm going to just dish out some pay rises today. That should just make my costs, stay the same. No, I'm just going to dish out more. Owners don't do that, very rarely, okay? Unless they're in the mining industry making so much goddamn money they can afford just to give it away, okay? Most businesses aren't doing that. So if you want a pay rise, you need to ask if you work for someone, okay? You need to ask, and what you do, in order to get, you must first give. The same principle. You want to work out what you offer, what's in it for them. As you're negotiating for your employer, it's the same thing if you have a business, you're negotiating with your clients. You say, what's in it for them? If you want to charge more, you need to put more out. You need to value add the service. Make it more appealing. Add more to it, then you can charge more. But don't base what you charge on what your level of financial comfort is or what you think is expensive or cheap, because then you'll see the world through your own eyes and not charge enough. Okay? Well, you got to see it through what the market's eyes want. And not everyone wants a cheap product. Okay? Yep, far away.
Can this be done with real estate? You develop, for example, 10 townhouses and you classify it as a prestige development. Can that be perceived as...
Absolutely, absolutely. And does that happen, yes or no? Who's someone you can think of, one of the most successful developers on the planet that created prestige? Donald Trump. You put a Trump name on a tower and it's worth 10, 15, 20% more. For no other reason than the name's on it. Why? Because he created, one, a brand, which we'll talk about tomorrow, a powerful brand, okay? But why? Because is Donald Trump, when he's building a building, he's going to go like, you know what, I'm just going to slap up a building here, make a quick buck. I don't care what it's like in 15 years. That's what he's about, yes or no? No way. If he's going to put his name on a tower, even if he builds it or someone else is building it and he's monitoring it, he wants it to be quality. You know, if you buy into a Trump tower, you expect quality. You expect it to be better than anything else. And because the Trump name's on it, it comes at a premium because people will pay more for it. So it actually increases the value. Making sense? So he did something in industry which usually is all about shortcutting, dodginess, ripping people off. So you know what? I'm going to create quality. I'm going to do a better job, as difficult as it is in that industry, and create a prestige brand. And that's a prestige brand people pay more for. You can have a brand that doesn't have to be prestigious. You might go for the middle market brand. Or you might go for the low-end brand and say, how can I build houses for $220,000? You know, so people at the low end of the market can get that. If you want to go for that market, you segment, or you might do different ones for different things. But you can't have fake value. You have to actually, it has to be what's in it for them. You have to deliver value for them. You're making a promise, you have to be able to deliver the promise. Okay? Make sense? Okay. So charging more is something you can a lot of do in your business, or for some of you who haven't set your prices yet, you're starting a business, you're going to be saying, what price should I sell at? So part of that is research. So jot this word down. Anything you do, you will test and measure first. Repeat after me. Jamie, I promise anything I do in business, I will test and measure first. Very good. Why? Well, the reason being is obvious. You don't want to go out with a whole campaign or whatever and you set the wrong price and it doesn't work. Or you charge too much or you charge too little. You want to go out with, you test and measure on a small scale to see what works, what price works. Now, a lot of you will be doing internet businesses when Lou speaks tomorrow night. She'll probably talk about this, but on internet business it's a lot easier as well to test and measure. Okay, they'll do it all the time. So now often when you charge more, here's the ironic thing. A lot of people don't charge more because one, they don't feel worthy or they don't think it's value for money themselves and not understanding what the market considers value for money. Or two, they're not game to charge more because they're afraid they'll get less customers. That's the real reason. It makes sense. They're like, well, we're not making enough money now. How can I charge more? I might get less customers. Ironically, depending on the industry or the product, by charging more, you often can increase the number of your customers. Make sense? Let me give an example in, say, we were talking about this a couple of days ago. One is the website industry. I was in New Zealand, I was in Auckland a couple of days ago. And I met a young guy, he's in his early 30s, he's made millions and millions of dollars. And he sold his business, and he just travels the world, doesn't do any work right now. Him and his girlfriend, they just have the greatest life, party around, have fun, easygoing. He's slightly eccentric, the typical nerd-looking geek type guy, okay? And but hugely successful. And he lives next door to Graham Hart, who's New Zealand's wealthiest man. Now, here's an idea. This is all he did back about 2 or 3 years ago. He simply got the Yellow Pages out in New Zealand and basically said, I'm the one that was a catalyst to put Yellow Pages almost out of business. So what he did is he knew about Google and the shift in marketing, what Google was doing. He got the Yellow Pages out and he made some phone calls to the companies that had full-page Yellow Page ads. Full-page ad for the year, they were paying $50,000. That's what he knew they were paying to be in the Yellow Pages. He phoned them up and said, I'm from such and such, where we basically take businesses from the Yellow Pages and put you on Google. We will take whatever you're spending on Yellow Pages now, it's the same price, and we'll have you on Google and you'll do really well on Google, basically. Okay, that's what he did. $50,000, they'd take $50,000, thank you very much, put them on Google. They'd pay an outsourced SEO person to put them all over Google. Google ads cost them $3,000 a year to do that, and they charge $50,000 and they make $47,000 profit. Now, is that a good business margin, yes or no? And he did very well out of that and built up a business which then people wanted to buy, and they bought that. Now he said there's a lot of competitors, everyone's got the idea, and they're copying as a decrease in the margin. But what that was called marketing arbitrage, because here's an old advertising industry that charges a fixed price no matter how much you get. And then Google come along, why Google becomes so successful, but Google probably underestimated the value they had and didn't charge enough, even though they don't need to make a lot of money, where basically companies that might spend 50 grand a year on Yellow Pages for 3 grand a year on Google could get a greater impact. And he was arbitraging, making the difference in between. Okay? And because back then a lot of companies didn't know about how to, they could hire their own SEO and do all this stuff, and they just didn't know how to do it. They're already spending 50 grand, if they're going to get more leads on Google, they'll do that. And as a result of that, he hired telemarketers, and they phoned all the Yellow Pages and pulled a heap of clients across and made a small fortune. Amazing, isn't it? It doesn't have to be highly complex, and then sold the business. Who likes the idea of that, by the way? So jot this down. What you want to have in your business is plenty of what? Ideas. Have enough zeros. Have enough zeros. You've got to have a business that has enough zeros behind it. Otherwise, you might be successful at selling a lot of the product, but you don't make anything because there's simply not enough money in it. You must value your time. Most people don't value the time. If you're going to be rich, you're going to say what your time is worth. How much is your time worth? And that's how much I demand to be paid for it. Same as in your business. You wouldn't go and work for someone else for nothing. Okay? Why would you work in your own business for nothing or for minimal amount? You're to say, I am worth this amount of money. So my business, I demand it has to pay me that. Now, in the beginning, it mightn't be able to, but that's what it has to say. It's going to have to be able to pay me this amount of money and still make this amount of profit and what's left. So you need decent margins. If you don't have enough margin to start with, you're never going to make money. Even if the business was successful at getting the clients you want, you're still going to be broke. Okay, see, there's a shift here in what you've got to do. So you've got to get the value proposition up high enough to boost the margins so there's a profit that's going to reward you for your time. Just like my former CEO, he knows what he's worth. He's not going to go and start a company unless he can make 5, 10, 20 million dollars out of it for 5 years worth of work. Because it's not just not worth, for him, it's not worth his time. But if he can make 5, 10, 20 million dollars for 5 years worth of work, he'll go and do it. But he'll set up a business, say, I've got to be able to sell this business for X amount of dollars. So he starts, jot this down, he starts with the end in mind. He's focused on how the business will look in the end. The end in mind. So he's saying, I want to be able to exit this business in X amount of years at X amount price. So his whole business model is built from the beginning with that in mind. Now let me take a guess. If we were to interview all the companies in Australia, the small business market in Australia, how many of them do you think actually have an end in mind set up before they start at the business? Zero. It's another reason we say, why do businesses fail? That's another reason for it. They don't begin with the end in mind. They don't say, well, I want to build this business up out of X amount of years and sell it for X amount of dollars. Therefore, they're never growing towards that as an outcome. They're never putting the processes in to do that, and they'll lose their vision. And it just ends up becoming a job, but often a poorly paid job. Okay? And they don't have it structured, they don't know how to sell it, etc. And as a result of that, they never monetize what they could and what a true entrepreneur should. So one of the speakers you're going to learn off this weekend will also talk about capital raising, different ways to go about doing that, how to structure your business. And it's a lot of interesting things to work there, because here's what's happening in the business market. In Australia, there's the baby boomers are coming up to what? So there's all these businesses that are going to go on the market for sale at the same time. Because baby boomers want to retire and cash out of their businesses and retire. But there's not going to be the market to buy them. Okay? They haven't planned properly. If they don't know how to sell or be able to structure the business properly and know effective ways to sell a business, they're going to have a business they can't get rid of. Or it's going to be worth less and less. Who's following what I'm saying here? Okay? So there's ways to sell a business. Like I said to my mum, if I bought the coffee shop, what I would have bought the building the coffee shop was in. I would have fixed up the business, and then I would have sold it. And the way I would have sold it easier, which they end up did sell the business, and the way they sold, I said, way you sell a business quicker is, jot this down, offer vendor finance. I said, a lot of people mightn't have the 100K cash or can't get the bank loan to buy it. Offer it vendor finance. I said, let's say you want to sell it for 80 grand, put it on the market at 100. But vendor finance, and they pay you off over time. That way you finance the person buying the business. So they might pay you 20 grand deposit and pay you 5 grand a month, whatever, over the course of that business. You can afford to charge more because you're providing the financing. So you might pick up an extra 20 grand. But you say, what about if they don't pay? Well, it's simple. Because if they don't pay, you take over the business again.
What's the risk?
The risk is if you can't sell the business, your risk is that you take over the business, have to fix up and then find another buyer. Okay. Now, ideally, if someone's come up to you and said, I want to pay them on cash, and you probably accept 80 grand cash in that example. But if it's going to be vendor finance, you want 100 grand. So you're going to have to pay more. And you're still charging interest on top, 10, 12%. It's a vendor finance deal. It's a lot. What it opens up for is a lot more people can afford to buy the business because they don't have the 80 grand. There's people that can afford 20 grand deposit and can afford to pay it off over time at whatever amount you work it out to be. But let's say they got halfway through their payment cycle a year later and they can't afford to meet the repayments. Obviously, you're going to help them. You want them to be successful in the business because if you own the building, you want them to continue paying rent and a higher level rent because you put the rent up and you want them to be successful. But ultimately, you're not responsible for their success, are you? If they choose not to manage the business correctly and go broke, well, you repossess the business again. And if they've paid you 40,000 of the 100,000, that's yours. You go have to fix it back up and find another buyer. Who's following what I'm saying? Actually, I know a particular gentleman that he's done this 3 times now. Actually, someone might share the story tomorrow. Sold a business 2 or 3 times now. Sold it, bought it back, sold it, bought it back. Because he knows you sell a business, people mismanage it, run it to the ground, buy it back cheaply, build your business back up because you know how to do it, sell it again, new owners run it back to ground, buy it cheaply, build it back up. Who's following what I'm saying? Serious, there's a lot of people in Australia made millions by doing that. Okay. Yeah, Kerry Packer did that with Alan Bond. Okay, the best deal of his life, bought Channel 9. Bond got into financial trouble, obviously, couldn't afford to keep it, and sold it for, I don't know how much he got it for, but he owed Kerry Packer, part of it was, 200 or 300 million was part of the sale that he still owed Kerry Packer. He couldn't meet the repayments, okay? So I think he sold it to Bond for about $1 billion back at the time, which back in the heyday was a lot of money. But 200 or 300 of it was vendor finance. The rest he got cash, something like 700 odd million cash for it. The balance of 300 million was vendor finance. Bond got into trouble and couldn't afford the vendor finance on the 300 mil to keep on paying it. So Kerry Packer was able to repossess the whole business again. Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Channel 9 was sold to CVC or whatever for about over $2 billion. Okay, and now they're wanting to list it this year and float it and sell it for more than that to get their money back. They probably won't. Okay, so Kerry Packer, as he said, you only need one Alan Bond in a lifetime to make $1 billion. Okay, that was not a bad deal for Kerry Packer. So there's downside. Now, so selling a business on vendor finance is a far easier way to sell. You can also buy businesses on vendor finance as well. So if you don't have the cash, you're going to say, well, we'll talk about that tomorrow as far as buying and selling businesses. But there's some clever ways to go about doing that. Remember, money is an idea. Cash is only one form of money. Credit is another form. Vendor finance is another form. Borrowing money is another form. Okay, equity is another form. There's licensing is another form. Certificates, there's a whole range of different ways of the money. Money is just an idea. Most people see it as cash. If you don't have the cash, you need an idea. Okay. Now, to become a successful entrepreneur, do you even have to be good at coming up with ideas? Yes or no? Because you can simply model other people's ideas, or you can buy their ideas. Bill Gates, did he invent MS-DOS?
No, he bought it.
He bought MS-DOS. Okay, but he recognized an opportunity, was willing to put money on something that he saw value in, and he was able to then monetize that, being very clever, by once again, which is now a very common strategy in the industry now as far as distribution platform. IBM, I think it was, wanted to actually sell them originally, the MS-DOS system, whatever, and they didn't want to buy it. So he said, okay, well, just pay me, and he was smart, just pay me a small royalty to get it on all their computers. Because once your system is on all their computers and you're with the biggest market player, they've just distributed you throughout all the market, plus they've been paid a small royalty for it. Then you can charge whatever you want eventually because everyone is going to be wanting your system. So sometimes it pays not to be greedy. Don't try and sometimes charge too much. You got to think of the longer term view and go, okay, in this case, I'm going to do it quite cheaply because they're going to market me and distribute me, and they don't even realize what they're doing. If IBM realized what they're doing, they would have done it a different way. Okay, but IBM's thinking, we don't want to have to buy it up front. We'll just save some money. But in the long run, it costs themselves a lot of money. Okay, making sense? So let me go into a couple of things very quickly, because some of you don't have a business saying, well, Jamie, what sort of business should I do? Or what sort of business should I move into? Especially if you hear my story when I was talking about my first business, I was not passionate about telecommunications. I just wanted to make money. And that's one of the reasons why it failed. So what I often share with people if you want to come up with a business idea is you want to look at what your passion is. I'll give you an example. I had a friend some years ago when I was living in Noosa. He moved from Sydney to Noosa. And he'd seen what I'd done, and I'd done quite well in real estate. So I gave him some ideas. I said, look, go and buy some properties. I said, there's a way you can buy property off the plan, etc. This is before the last property boom, and Noosa was really booming then. And he went out and bought 2 properties off the plan. He was freaking out. I don't even have the money to settle yet. I said, well, relax, because he moved jobs. He was a chef, right? Chef working in Sydney. Don't make that much money. He moved to Sunshine Coast to have a better quality of life. And I said, well, look, you'll find another job, worst case, not a problem. So then you can get finance in time because he had to settle on his 2 properties. Anyhow, I coached him through that so he didn't freak out, because most people, when they go into a transaction or even property, if they haven't done it before, they freak out and then sabotage. And fear makes them go backwards and they don't follow through and they don't succeed. It's when that fear comes, you got to say, cool, calm and collect it and follow through and execute. And he ended up following through and executing these properties. The market had gone up a lot the time he had to settle on them, and he'd made a small fortune on these 2 properties. So he'd ended up making a lot of money, but most people can't deal with that uncertainty. When I don't have a job, how am I going to get finance? I said, you'll just move and you'll get another job. Worst case, you'll get a job. So he settled on that, and then he said, well, look, I'm sick of working as a chef. What else do you recommend I do? And I said, well, it's up to you, but what I would do if you want to start a business is you want to do something that you're passionate about. I said, most people have a skill set, but they don't realize their skill set is worth money. And I said, most people want to start a business, but they're looking everywhere else other than what their existing skill set is and how they can take that skill set and turn it into money or turn it into a business. I said, here's the challenge. He said, you're a chef. When you first started being a chef, was that your passion? He said, absolutely, I love being a chef, and he's a very good chef. I said, you're passionate about being a chef then? I thought you said you don't like your job. I said, well, he said, I don't like the job because I don't like having to work in a restaurant doing the same thing over and over again. I said, so you actually like being a chef, it's just that your work is mundane where you have to work. Understandable, okay? And you're making about $60,000 a year, $70,000 a year. It's not a lot of money for the hard work that chefs do. So I said to him, here's what you want to do differently. I said, let me ask you a question. Is there anyone else on the planet that is a chef that makes more money than you? It's an obvious question, isn't it? Now, I'm asking you the same question as well. Is there anyone else on the planet that what you do, your expertise, your career, your job is, that makes more money than you? There probably is, right? So I said, once again, it's all about modeling. I said, and of course, he goes, well, Jamie Oliver. How much does Jamie Oliver make? Who knows? But does he make more than the average chef? Yes or no? Yeah. He makes tens of millions of dollars a year. So I said, here's the clue. I'm not going to spoon feed you the answers, but I'm going to help you think and grow rich. In other words, think and become wealthier. What does Jamie Oliver do then that makes him tens of millions of dollars a year that you and other chefs don't do, and you only make $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 a year if you're lucky? What's the difference? Yeah, so yell out the answers. You tell me, what's the difference between Jamie Oliver and the average chef? Well, a lot of different things. Jot these things down. First of all, let me ask you a question. Is it because Jamie Oliver is 1,000 times better chef than my friend? Yes or no? Now, if you don't know my friend as a chef, my friend is probably nearly as good, might even be even better as a chef in reality. So you say, well, you have to be a really good chef. You don't actually have to be 1,000 times better. You don't even actually necessarily be better than the other people, okay? So it's a number of different things, but the ultimate thing is you can get it. What is Jamie Oliver selling what is my friend selling that Jamie Oliver isn't selling? Put it that way. Time, jot that down. My friend is a typical chef. The only way he enables himself to be paid for his services is showing up in a restaurant, which he doesn't even get to see the customers. Like overseas, I like it how it's cool. You can see in and see the chefs. Or the chefs will come out and say hi. But in Australian restaurants, most people don't even know who the chef is. He never gets to be rewarded other than maybe a thank you, and they don't even know who the person is. So the only way he's selling his time is he's in a restaurant 8 hours a day, 9 hours or 10 hours a day, doing hard work. That's why he sells his time. So he has an expertise, but he's selling it in a small scale, a little leverage, and he's paid by time, no matter how many meals he cooks. He's not on a clip of every meal, he's paid per time. He has security of a guaranteed income, not a lot of uncertainty, but therefore he doesn't make a lot of money. So the key is he needs to shift. Jamie Oliver's not selling his time, is he? Jamie Oliver is selling his expertise as a chef. So is my friend. They're both selling their expertise as a chef. Jamie Oliver's making tens of millions of dollars a year, my friend isn't. Difference being, Jamie Oliver is selling his expertise in a what? In a leveraged way. Jot that down. In a massively leveraged way. Or what we talked about this morning, my friend's selling his time. Jamie Oliver is selling a what? A result. Jamie Oliver is selling a result. And he's selling that through products and services in a mass leverage way. And as a result of that, he's earning not just active income, but very leveraged, passive forms of income. Making sense? And so what's this got to do with me? It's got to do with everything you do, because this is the shift from being poor or middle class to being rich, and rich beyond your dreams is that shift. Now, did he have to go back to cooking school to become a great chef? No, they still have a great chef. They still know how the same expertise. It's the way that they distribute their expertise. One is leverage, one is not. Now, what about you? Whatever you do in your business or career, are you distributing your expertise in a leveraged way where you get many forms of income, or are you sharing your expertise one-on-one or in a non-leveraged way, like an employee or like in a chef in a restaurant? And that's what most people are doing. So, Jamie Oliver, one, he has products, is that true? Cookbooks. How much would he make in royalties off cookbooks? Okay. TV shows, royalties off TV shows. Okay. He makes guest appearances, so he'd be paid for his time and a lot of money for his time. Okay. He also, though, is smart. He's carried over what we'll learn tomorrow, branding. He's taking his branding and put the branding on different saucepans and all those sort of cooking utensils and products. So selling product, he doesn't have to be there to sell it. People buy the product because it's got Jamie Oliver brand on it. Must be good. Okay? Or if they like swearing, they might buy Gordon Ramsay. Okay? Different market. Is that true? Okay? But so massive exposure. Now, Jamie Oliver also owns restaurants. That's leverage, but that requires capital-intensive leverage. So that's one way for a chef often. How they get leverage is they start their own restaurant because they're good at chefing, but they have no idea how to run a business and usually ends up in disaster, or they work themselves to death. Okay? So that's one way to do it, but there's other ways to do that. You could franchise, is it true? A series of restaurants if you want. He could license his name and brand, which he does. He could have internet subscriptions for people to download cookbook, your recipes, iPhone app, etc. So you have to pay for his recipes. He's probably sold on iTunes, absolutely, on Apple. So Apple distributors on a large scale. Okay, so all these things are what we call passive forms of income. So Jamie Oliver, his only expertise really is cooking. Okay, but with a grin on his face, and baby boomer mums love him. Also good branding, the naked chef. Have you ever seen Jamie Oliver actually naked? Would you ever want to? I'm sure there's some people out there that would, but the point is, naked chef, great branding. Branding very powerful. He's built a brand outside of his own name. So his name's a brand, but the naked chef is well known. So that is a great brand, and it's a great PR story that got him out there and led to momentum, more exposure. So his coffers are pouring in with money and opportunity. My friend, chef in a restaurant. He's the same expertise, but the way we distribute our expertise. What's this got to do with you? Let's say you're an accountant, but you see one-on-one with clients and you work that way. You're limiting the way that you reach people. If you change that as an accountant, you could reach a lot more people by doing it in a leveraged way. You might have an accounting application. You might have a DVD where you don't have to be there, so your potential clients or your clients can watch you on DVD and learn all about what you're going to teach them, and that leverages your time. As an accountant, you might say, well, instead of me working one-on-one with clients, I'm going to put 20 clients in a room at a time. I'm going to charge them the same amount of money I'd normally charge for consultation, and I will teach 20 at once, and that will give leverage. Making sense? So there's all different ways that they could be a team of accountants. So they're not doing the accounting, but a team of accountants, that will give them leverage. They could license an accounting system. They could license an accounting brand. They could write books, etc., etc. An accountant can make money in a lot more different ways. Same pretty much with any career, okay? By getting leverage on what you want to do. So here's what I want you to do. Turn to the person next to you and share with them ways that you can get more leverage by selling your current expertise in a different way. Okay? Instead of a limited way like my friend the chef, you want to say, how do you become the Jamie Oliver of what you do? How do you distribute it in a multiple leveraged way? Go for it. Think of some ideas. So, is this making sense so far? Yeah. These things are all important to business and what it takes to grow that. We looked at a lot of different examples. One, you've learnt to charge more, true? And in some cases, that's easier said than done, depends on your business, but you can segment. So you can charge some clients more, some less, some in the middle. And you've learnt that you should target your business to people that can afford your product or service. Otherwise, you're going to frustrate yourself and frustrate others. Now, they want to get excited about a product they can't afford. So that's important. And there's the abundance versus scarcity mentality model of the world, that there is plenty of abundance in the world if you see the world through those eyes, and you can go and see that abundance. If you see scarcity, you'll attract scarcity into your life, or you won't see the money. And so many people are operating in scarcity and think, why isn't there more money? Well, it's them that's blocking the money. They're pushing the money away. So often when you say, well, Jamie, can you just say you can just shift your business success just by shifting your thinking? Yes or no? Absolutely. It all starts there, because money is nothing more than an idea. And where do ideas come from? Outside either your head, or you model other people's ideas. And then you can either amend it and model it, adjust it to make it something better, or you can buy the rights to other people's ideas, or you can simply just take the idea and take it to another country like Bunnings by copying the idea, start with another name. Or like my friend, the CEO, looking at a very successful model and saying, what if I could just produce a company 5 or 10% as good as that? I'll make a spare 10, 20, $30 million in a couple of years. That is a good model. You know what I'm saying? So you don't have to have the ideas. Bill Gates didn't. He had MS-DOS, but he had the ability to action the idea better than other people, or the vision to see the opportunity or see a trend before it was happening. So all these things are important when you're looking into business. And we looked at earlier today, what business are you really in is a question to ask for you to get a bigger picture of, can you expand what you're doing, and who are your competitors, or who are your competitors really when you think about that, okay? So all these things are very important. Make sense? So does anyone have any questions on what we've covered so far? Any questions? Does that mean it's making perfect sense? Okay, so let's look at now, shall we? So if you looked at the Jamie Oliver example, does anyone have any, do you want to share their example of things they come up with as far as how you can better leverage what you currently do? Are you using the Jamie Oliver story, understanding that? Did anyone come up with some ideas? You want to yell out some answers? Yeah? We'll start here as far as, what did you do? Because I want you to think, just hear it in theory, but go, what else can I do differently to what I've been doing in the past? Am I just selling my time one-on-one, or I have to be behind a desk? Or am I getting leverage in what I'm doing? Yep.
So I currently sell for Apple.
Yep.
And quite realistically, I can share the knowledge that I've learned at Apple and the sales books that I've read, and write a book about it, do videos, do courses to, I guess, assist other young people to learn how to sell.
Absolutely. So you could create leverage. You could take. So what you're saying, you could take your existing expertise. A lot of people are saying, remember, they're looking for a business or an idea out there, instead of going, hang on a minute, I already have knowledge that is of value. There's certain people in the world that would pay to have his knowledge, one, how to sell, his knowledge of Apple systems, or etc., that he understands, or how maybe to get a product onto Apple and all this sort of, that is knowledge. Now that knowledge, if it's packaged in a way to the right market, that is of value. Okay, and we'll look at tomorrow how you can spread that, or we'll even start today, how you can spread that knowledge far and wide and be paid for it in different ways. Yep. Give him a hand. Because we're now in the what age? We used to be in the industrialization age. We're now in the information age. We have to adapt to that. People will pay for information, will pay for knowledge to save them time and money. We all do, because we don't have time to learn everything. Or an aspiring entrepreneur would love to know what you know about those things, because that can make them a lot of money. Okay? And that's of very value. So the way that you share your expertise, even before you start looking outside of that. Or as an entrepreneur, if you don't have the expertise you want, you can either go to learn it, or you can hire it. Does that make sense? You can hire smart people. Who's seen the movie Social Network? Who's seen the movie Social Network? And see how the two brothers tried to hire the expertise, because they didn't have, as the classic line was, if you'd invented Facebook, then you would have invented Facebook. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, is Mark Zuckerberg's response to them when he was being grilled by the lawyers. Because they didn't have the expertise. That's why they tried to hire him, because Mark had the enough knowledge about how to do those things, and they needed the expertise. So if you don't have it, you can try and hire it. But he was too smart. Well, I'll do it myself. I don't need to work for someone else. I mean, because what they didn't know about Mark is that he was offered as a high school student $1 million by Microsoft for one of his applications. And Mark had this weird idea around money that, I'm not interested in the money, because he was almost an anti-capitalist to some degree, even though he's a very successful capitalist. Yeah, he's a billionaire. And the point is that, and also, he wasn't easily bought. If he was like most people, imagine being a teenager and offered $1 million. Who would have took the $1 million? So imagine being, when you first started Facebook, being offered, $10 million. Who would have took the $10 million? You go, that's success. I started a business, 18 months later, I get offered $10 million, walk away. A lot of people would take that. Imagine being offered $1 billion by Microsoft. Who would have considered taking it? You sort of say, what you got to understand, here's a guy that has such a vision, that's so into what he wants to do and he wants to make a difference to the world, that he can't be bought by money. Make sense? Now, Facebook is valued at $52 billion on its last sales transaction. And still, they can't buy him for money. Do you know what I'm saying? Because he has a different value. His value, his motto is he's focused on a higher purpose, a higher proposition for society. Now, when he first started Facebook, he didn't go, my God, I'm going to code up something to change the world. He was inspired to be able to try and hook up with some girls, basically, okay? He was socially inept in that area. So, out of frustration, led to, how do we, get to know what other girls are on campus? That's where it started from, okay? And as a result of it, then I realized, what have we got here? They didn't really fully understand what they've got. Now you look at Facebook, if you realize the difference it's making in the world, some people say, well, it's just something people spend time on. You look what just happened in Egypt. That would not happen. That happened because of Facebook. That whole revolution started from a Facebook page of people being able to gather together. And that's why a lot of countries are scared of the power of Facebook and create revolution. Most governments in the world have no idea what's coming to them. The power of Facebook. And people say, well, isn't it dangerous? What if Facebook got into the wrong hands? No, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, does he control Facebook? Yes or no? If he put something out there when they changed the privacy laws on Facebook, the backlash they got, Facebook, the tools he created was used against him. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people joined a page and basically slamming Facebook. That if they don't change the privacy policies, we will revolt. So it's one of the most transparent democracies that's ever been created. Okay, so not even he can't dictate to what your opinion is, even if he owns Facebook, can he? Okay, so therefore that's one of the reasons it's become so successful, because people trust it. It has a large degree of transparency, and also what Mark was all about was saying, he believes that people should really have one profile, so to speak. In other words, what a lot of people used to do, let's say they would have a work profile. And they might have who they were at work would be different to who they are socially, etc. And he says, no, people should be authentic. People should be transparent. This is who you are, okay? And Facebook creates a large degree of accountability and honesty. So it creates where you used to have small communities, rural communities, people were much more closely connected. Then people moved to the cities and people lost that touch. What the world is moving back towards is communities, but online communities, networks. And that's what Facebook has tapped into. Now, we'll talk about Facebook as an example tomorrow when we go in the new rules of business, because they're a very classic example. And we're going to look at what they do differently and how you can take lessons from that and apply it into your own businesses. It's very exciting, the different things that they did there. Make sense? Before we do that, let's look at who would like to know how to increase the sales of your business rapidly without having to spend a single cent. Who'd be interested in knowing how to do that? Okay, I'm going to get started on this. The rest we'll cover tomorrow. I have about 5 or 6 hours with you tomorrow. So we've got a lot more we can get through. We have about another 45 minutes. So I'm going to get through as much as this I can now. And then we have a break. And then we have 2 guest speakers for you, or 3 guest speakers for you today. Okay, so lots more to learn. So here is there's 4 things you need to learn. 4 key skills. You said to me, Jamie, I'm sick of not making enough money. I want to make at least $1 million a year. Well, I'd say here's 4 things you need to be good at. Jot them down very quickly. You need to be good at marketing. What do you need to be good at? Marketing. How do you get good at marketing? You find role models and you learn off them. I learn off Jay Abrahams as one of my marketing mentors. If you don't know who Jay is, has anyone seen Jay speak at all? He does come to Australia occasionally. If you get a chance, We might let you know about him. But I mentioned a book that he has. You don't want to pay $10,000 an hour. Jay does seminars at times that cost $50,000 to attend, 3-day marketing boot camps. Okay, $50,000. Some people go, my God, that's a lot of money. But he gives a massive risk reversal, massive guarantee. Okay, and heaps of people send their executives or entrepreneurs go to it. And happy to pay because they know just one idea in a company, let's say a company of any decent size, one idea can make them millions of dollars. So for $50,000 to learn a group of ideas and also to network with other powerful business people will pay that because information is power. So as we look at that, the number one, the 4 things, you need to be good at marketing. So you can read and study. You don't need a marketing degree. I'm talking real life marketing, and that's a skill set you need in anything you do. What I'm talking about here is what we call generalist knowledge. See, at school and university teaches to specialize, become a specialist, become an accountant, a nurse, a doctor, a school teacher, a carpenter, a builder, etc. So you specialize your knowledge so you know how to do something particular, specific. Society needs that because we don't want to have to be able to, everyone have to do everything. We specialize and we get a job or career out of that. What I'm suggesting though, in the 21st century, you need to have what's called generalist knowledge as well. Okay? Because if you have generalist knowledge in the important areas, you will do well no matter what career you go into. Because I've learnt to improve these 4 skills I'm going through with you, I know I can walk into pretty much any industry as an entrepreneur and do reasonably well or do very well. Why? Because I don't need to have the specialized knowledge of that particular industry. I don't have to be good at finance in the mortgage broking industry. I don't have to be good at recruitment. I don't have to be good in the magazine publishing industry. I don't have to be good as an accountant. I don't need that specialized knowledge. Why? Because I can learn it or hire it. Make sense? But what I do need is a specialized knowledge of knowing how to do these 4 key things. The generalized knowledge, so to speak, of doing those things. Because with generalized knowledge, you have power to achieve the things that count most. Let me give you an example of this. If all you had was specialized knowledge and you worked in the vinyl record industry, and that's all your life was around, either that you made either vinyl records or that's what your industry was related to supplying that industry, and that's all you knew. Almost overnight when what come out? CDs. That industry was wiped out almost instantly as a result of that. So if you spent your whole career doing specialized knowledge in the vinyl record industry, how much is that specialized knowledge now worth? 0. So you would have struggled to get another job because who wants your job, So, but if you had these generalist skills, you could have easily went to another industry because the knowledge is transferable to any industry you go into. That's why I'm teaching you this, okay? It's transferable to every industry you go into. In marketing is one of those generalized skills. There's 4 key skills. So marketing. Now, I don't care if you want to be a doctor. If you're better at marketing, you're going to have a more successful practice because you're going to reach more people. Okay. Number 2 you have to be good at is negotiating. Jot this down, negotiating. So negotiating. So in any endeavor you do, whether you're an investor, entrepreneur, working in a career, any part of life is a negotiation. Is it true? So on a scale of 0 to 10, you're going to rate yourself these. You're either 10, you're an outstanding negotiator. Okay. You're a Donald Trump. Okay. Or 0, bloody hopeless. 5, somewhere in between. Because what we want to do is just so quickly put next to marketing, 0 to 10 where you're at. Be honest with yourself. Negotiating, 0 to 10 where you're at. Because what you want to look at and say, where am I at now and what do I have to do to get to another level? And if you can bump it up just a notch, you'll do better. In business, if you can negotiate better suppliers, better deals, you can do nothing else in your business but boost your bottom line because you can cut costs. Do nothing else and drop money to the bottom line, the low-hanging fruit, just by negotiating better, okay, with suppliers, etc. Number 3, you have to be a good communicator. Now, these are skills, generous skills. The average person's not good at communicating. So if you're going to grow a business, who thinks if you're going to grow a business and be the leader of business, being able to speak in public would be a valuable skill to have? Absolutely, because no matter if you're going to be the CEO of a company, you're going to lead a company, you're going to have to train your team, you're going to have to promote your business, okay? The better you are at speaking, the better you are at promoting your business, okay? You look at someone like Richard Branson, he's had to overcome a massive weakness. Richard is shy and awkward in public. He does not like public speaking. Yet, despite that, he's built one of the most successful PR brands on the planet with hardly any money, where most companies like Coca-Cola would spend billions to get branding that Richard Branson's got for Virgin companies. But even if you're not good at public speaking, he's had to overcome that to do whatever he can to still create PR for his company. So being able to communicate. So you can communicate with your customers. The better you are at communicating, okay, the more successful you'll be. Make sense? So you need to be a better communicator in whatever you do. So 0 to 10, where you're at? 5, 6, 9? And how do you get better at that communication? Number 4 is, we talked about this before, you need to be creative or / good at solving problems. Creative and solving problems. Okay? Creative or solving problems. So, because let's face it, in business, it's one series of problems after the next. That's what it is. You have to be good at solving problems. Okay? And the better you can get at solving problems, very good. Now, one of the reasons I have a career today, one of my careers as far as an educator, so even as financial education, all come out of me going through the experience of having to solve a lot of financial problems for myself. And when I was able to solve those in finances for myself, other people would ask me how to do that. And inadvertently, I end up starting a career, an additional career of teaching people what I went through, how to solve those problems. Because for me, I got good at solving the problems. And then when now I've worked with over 250,000 people, I notice people have similar financial challenges. They follow similar patterns. They have a certain psychology that holds them back. So for me to solve someone's problems financially is a lot easier. It's fairly simple because I've seen it. I know what the solutions are. But the average person, they're stuck in their world because their level of thinking that's created the problem is not going to be the level of thinking that's going to solve the problem. Make sense? We have to go to a higher level of thinking to solve the problems we've created. You get that higher level of thinking by modeling someone that's already been down the road before or tapping into your creativity. Instead of getting frustrated, get creative. Instead of working yourself to death and being overstressed, go on a bloody holiday. Okay? We'll go through that in the morning, but go on a mini break, like take time out. Some of my best ideas have come by being on a holiday. So I set up, well before I become a millionaire, I said, you know what, I'm going to take regular breaks. This idea of 9 to 5, 5 days a week, 6 days a week working, and then taking 4 weeks a year off if you're in Australia, 2 weeks if you're in America, is absolutely ridiculous. That's the industrial age era. It's an outdated formula. Why should I sign up to what everyone else is doing? If I want to be successful, my mentor said, Jamie, if you want to be rich or you want to be successful, do the exact what, do you think? The exact opposite. Most people were workaholics. They didn't want achieving things. So I would say I'd schedule regular holidays, regular mini breaks. So I'd go away and take time away because what you need to be doing is working on your business, not always in it. So by taking time away, I was forced to work on my business. So when I'm doing crazy adventurous stuff around the world, having fun, ideas would flow. Being creative and being playful, ideas would flow. And I go, aha. So then you come back and you implement into your business new ideas, then take another break. I've at times had to force myself to go on holidays when I didn't even want to. Okay? Who can handle this strategy, by the way? Okay? Also, the point being is that you want to enjoy your life. It's not like I'm going to work and be a workaholic and not enjoy your life. It's whatever you do is going to take time. So you're going to say, well, in 10 years when I've achieved my $1 billion goal, I'm then going to have a holiday. Life is not like that. You want to take regular time out, enjoy. Now, in the beginning, you might say, well, Jamie, I don't have the time or money. Well, you're going to restructure your life and make it a priority. You need those mini breaks. You need that time to recoup because the reason most people... Now, that's if you want to become really wealthy. Because if you're working all the time, you're not going to get rich. What you need to be doing more of is thinking. Thinking, delegating, execution. Thinking, delegating, execution. Make sense? That's what it's all about. You got to think. You are the leader. You are the catalyst. You are the creative person. You come up with the innovation, the strategy, the ideas of how you're going to do things bigger and better, and then you delegate to a team to implement. If you go and do all the work, then you're too busy getting caught up making a living, you forget to do what? Live. You're too busy working in your business to grow it. You're too busy working to become rich. So one of my mentors said, Jamie, if you want to become richer, you need to spend more time thinking, less time working. That was true. I was caught up too much in work. I need to take more time off and think about things. Plan, execute, look at the bigger picture. How am I going to come up? How am I going to change things? Making sense? You say, well, Jamie, that's all right for you, but if I'm just starting out in my business, everything's happening, etc., well, we're going to look at that tomorrow. Because if things are happening all over the place and you're not organized, it's probably one, you don't have a proper time management system in place that's effective. Okay, chaos is sometimes good. Okay, but the most common excuse people do that stops them having their dreams, I don't have enough money or I don't have enough what? Time, which both are bullshit. Okay, money is something you can create out of thin air. It comes down to creativity. And time, well, we all have 24 hours a day. It's what we do with the time, how we remanage our time to be productive. Okay? That'd be like Richard Branson saying, I'm a bit busy. I can't go travel around the world and be at the Grand Prix or do whatever and party this weekend because I'm running 400 companies. No. He's running 400 companies, has 400 companies, but he can still have a life. Does that make sense? And how come if you're running one company, you can't have a life? Makes no sense, does it? It's something about the way that you do things. It's a system, organization. That's critical. I'm not saying this is easy. Jot this down. It's simple, not necessarily easy. Simple, not necessarily easy. You're going to find that over and over again with anything we're talking about here at business. It's simple, not necessarily easy. But it's possible. Doing things differently. Some of you are very efficient with your time. Who thinks they can improve their time management, by the way? It's a critical. Remember, time is everything you've got. You've got to learn to say no at times. Or automate and systemize, which we'll cover in the morning. We'll make sure we'll cover that in the morning. Making sense? What I'm saying, if you get good at these skills, it doesn't matter what industry you go into, you will do well. Because you know how to communicate, you know how to negotiate, you know how to market, you know how to solve problems. They're the key skills an entrepreneur needs as well. Critical skills. Okay, critical skills. That's what you got to have. Okay, so how do we then go? Let's look at marketing, because one of the keys to a business is that a lot of people get excited about a business or a product and idea, and they spend all the time in other aspects other than doing one thing. One of the most important things you must do in a business is know how to market. True? Because if you don't generate sales, I don't care what you do, you're not going to make money and your business is not going to survive. So you're not good at, if you're the entrepreneur, you need to be good at sales and marketing. You need to understand that. You can also hire the skill set as well, but you really, as an entrepreneur, I don't know many entrepreneurs that are not good at marketing and not good at sales. Okay, because generally they have being an entrepreneur, you generally have to, when you're starting a business out, you generally have to do everything in the beginning. So you get to know every aspect of the business, which can be great. Because then as you delegate your way out of it, you know how to train people of how to do that. A friend of mine was going to speak on Sunday, but he can't make it now. But it would have been very valuable for you because he creates systems in businesses. He basically goes in to businesses and he videos their processes. Videos, documents it, so it's all available for the company and they can see every system, business, how to do everything. It's video and documented. So it doesn't matter what person comes into the business to replace a particular role, they can just watch the video of explain how that role works. So it's a documented system, very, very effective. And he does this for companies. It also makes the company more valuable because there's a system there of how to run the business. It's not people dependent. It's now system dependent. Does it make sense? Okay. But we may have, we might see if we can steal some of his information. We might be able to at least make if I can get the details of his website or something, if you want to check that out, of how he does that, at least that can be valuable for some of you. You know, I don't know how much he charges or whatever, but there'd be different price points. The reason he's not here is, of course, he's one of his offices is based in Christchurch. He just had to fly back to Christchurch to try and rescue that. But that's a very clever, because the systemization of a business is critical. And now with video and technology, it's much easier to document and systemize a business and put it in a structure where everyone can see and access information and know what they're doing. Okay, so what we're going to do, let's look at some marketing. We'll get started on this and we'll finish it tomorrow. But this is everything. So what I'm going to look at here is how do we go and grow a business, what I call generally zero-cost marketing or low-cost marketing. So you don't necessarily need big ad budgets, etc. Especially with the online world now. Advertising is so much cheaper thanks to Google. They changed an industry, by the way. Okay, Google changed an industry, and they've added a lot of value to you as an entrepreneur. Google are your what? Google are your friends. Okay, Google is a very effective way to grow a business, and whether you like it or not, if you're not good on Google or effective with it, then you're going to be out of the game. If you're not already, you soon will be. Okay. So marketing. Let's look at how you growing a business. Draw this down. What we're going to look at is the marketing funnel. What is it? Marketing funnel. Marketing is almost a science. Now, this will be a very slightly from business to business, but this is a general template of what you look at how to grow a business. So what I look at is a marketing funnel. So what you want to do with a marketing funnel is you want to fill the top of the funnel with a lot of prospects. Okay? Prospects or potential clients. So the top of the funnel is filled with a multitude of potential clients. Here's what happens with most people. They start a business and they are nervous and fearful. It's like, I hope my business succeeds. I need the money. So they become, jot this down, they become attached to the outcome. And that is a challenge. If you become too attached, especially emotionally attached to the outcome, what you do is you repel it. Guys, at school, whenever it was, you were chasing girls. If you come across as too keen with a woman, what happens to the woman? She runs away, true? So you can't be too keen, you can't be too attached to the outcome. But if you come from a position of being less attached, now guys usually don't figure this out until they're much older, but being less attached, it's the opposite effect starts to have, okay? So you want to basically, marketing is the same. It's like you're courting your potential customers, okay? You don't want to scare them away, okay? But you don't want to show no interest, so they go, they'll go somewhere else. So it's having that healthy balance. So what we want to do though, but you don't want to be attached to an outcome. If you want to be, jot this down, you want to be clear about your outcomes. Very clear about what you want to achieve. Absolutely. Very clear. However, then you want to be unattached to the outcome because the universe works in the way of allowing things to flow. If you're attached to something, you're like, I hope this works. I better get a customer. This customer doesn't buy, I'm screwed. Do you think if that energy is coming across to a potential customer, that's going to affect their buying decision, yes or no? So most communication is non-verbal. Todd will talk about this, no doubt, about communication and different ways to communicate with customers or team members after I finish today. But it's very important because most communication is silent. It's your energy. If you're like so attached, I hope this person buys, you are affecting the process. You're putting pressure on the decision and you're causing it to not happen or less likely to happen. If you're relaxed, you want to jot this word down, you want to be impartial. You want to be in a position where you're in charge of your business destiny, not your customers. Where you don't care. You don't need to care. You want to be in demand. Where there's more people want to do business with you than you can afford to deal with. So then you become fussy and you set the criteria of who can do business with you, not your customers. Most businesses fail because the customer dictates their success. You don't want to be in that position. You control it. From right up front, you set the deal. This is what you have to do to become a client of my company. You have to have these criteria, you have to go through these hoops, and then we might accept you as a customer. One of the greatest marketing machines on the planet is the banks. The banks are the richest businesses in most countries, especially Australia has the top 10 richest banks. 4 of them are Australian, top 10 richest banks on the planet. But think about this. Do banks begging you for their business generally, yes or no? Obviously, in recent times, they've had to be more competitive, but generally, banks, who does the convincing? They're meant to be selling you on why you should take out a home loan with their bank. But guess who's doing the selling? You as a potential client, you are trying to convince them. You got to put all this data, you got to complete all these applications. You're praying they take you on as a customer so you can get a home loan. Make sense? Jot this down. That's called posture. Posture. They are in power. They are in posture because they have more people wanting their product than they can deal with, so they can go, you know what? We'll be fussy. We'll decide who we're going to give a loan to and who we won't. It's a little bit like a nightclub. Why do they have a queue? Ever been to a nightclub? The outside there's a huge queue trying to get in. You go inside and it's empty. But what are they trying to do? Reverse the posture where they make it hard to get in, and they'll deliberately don't let some people in, okay? So it spreads the word. The club is really hard to get into. You're going to need to know someone to get in, etc. You're going to need to be on the VIP dual list. You might need to buy a booth, etc., to get in the club. They created a prestige to get in the club. So people are begging to get in a club to spend money. Is that a good business, yes or no? Where other clubs might be, they're begging people to come into the club. See, there's a whole difference in psychology, whole difference in the way that you market yourself, okay? And banks are the classic case of that. They make you feel like you have to sell yourself to them. So what it's called, it's the whole reverse sell. You're effectively selling them why they should take you on as a client. Very different. Now, they're very successful businesses, yes or no?
Yes.
Something to learn. Repeat after me. Something to think about. Now, let's say the average Australian business. What are they trying to do? They're begging. They're doing everything. They're discounting their prices. Come and be a client of mine. And as a result of that, they lose their posture. They also set themselves up for failure because they're not in charge of the process. Their customer will dictate. Making sense? So what we want to do is change all that. And the way you're going to change that is put yourself in a position of demand. And when you understand marketing, then you can create a massive demand for your product or service. And you'll be amazed what you can do. So the marketing funnel. What you want to do is fill the top of your funnel, your prospects. You have so many more prospects than you can possibly deal with, so they can't all fit through. Because then what you're going to do is you're going to put filters on. Filters. Jimmy, what do you mean by filters? Well, a filter is you're basically going to grade your clients. Okay? So one of these processes is you can grade your clients. So what you can do, and there's a classic case of a dentist. He was, dentistry at one stage had the highest level of suicide of any industry in the world. And they really needed to change the whole industry. So there was one particular dentist become very successful because he used to hate dentistry, hate being a dentist. So he completely rechanged, innovated, and made his dentistry. And also people used to hate going to a dentist. They linked pain to it. So he completely changed it, okay? He made it not look like a dentist. He made it look very comfortable when people wait there. They brought in muffins and all this food and coffee. So when people there, they got something to eat and made it really interesting. Then they put, you could only become a client. Remember, a posture. You can only become a client of this dentist if you're referred. If no one referred you, you couldn't just show up and get an appointment. You had to be referred. You had to find someone that would recommend you. Otherwise, you couldn't get there. Is that posture? They're saying, no, you can't be a customer. You have to meet these criteria. You have to be referred as one of the criteria. So it creates an exclusivity because what he realized, I don't want to work with anyone. If I'm going to spend my life helping my customers, I want to have customers I love, customers I enjoy, the best quality customers I could have. So I'm going to, instead of hating my career, I'm going to love my career. This is what I'm saying here. So by stepping back and saying, I'm going to grade my clients, I'm going to say, if you have an existing business, what you're going to do with this is you're going to grade your clients A through to C or D, and you're going to create a different criteria. Your A-class clients are the clients, for instance, that might always pay on time, have plenty of money and want your product and don't whinge about price, and they are repeat clients that continue to come back. The customers you want A-class clients, is that true? You want them all day long, okay, and they probably order a lot of volume. B clients might be almost the same, not quite as good, but you still want them. They pretty much pay always on time. They're a pleasure to deal with. They're sort of customers you want. C customers might be okay, but they pay late. You have to chase them up for payment. They whinge a bit, etc. They're just not quite as good. You're going to go, really do I want C clients? Why don't I just give more an A and B clients and give my C clients to my competitors? Why would I give clients to my competitors? Well, I'll tell you tomorrow why you give your clients to competitors, okay? And how you make money from that, okay? And D clients you don't want. Nightmare clients, probably rip you off, won't pay, badmouth you, slander you, really hate you, people you don't want around. Who has any of these clients, okay? So that's what you want to grade your clients. A, B, C, D, and you want to keep your A and B. You want to sack the C's and get rid of the D's. Okay. How do you sack your clients? It's hard to send them a letter and say, we've changed our criteria of who we do business with because we've had such demand, we can't deal with everyone. Therefore, what we are now doing is only dealing with clients that meet these criteria. Here are your options. You can, if you achieve this, this, and this, then we'll continue to work with you as a client. If not, here's some other companies we recommend you go use. They're happy to service you. Make sense? And I can show you tomorrow how you can start where you can make money from that as well by referring them somewhere else. But in other words, just like what this dentist did, he hated his career. He rechanged everything. So how can I make it ideal, something I enjoy, and loved it, and his business boomed. Okay? His business boomed as a result of that. He enjoyed it. His staff enjoyed it more. The clients enjoyed it. It was a better experience all around. He made a lot more money, and he became happy. Instead of wanting to commit suicide, he was loving what he did. Then he got hired as a speaker as well to go and share what he did to turn around his business in that whole industry, and had an additional income. Because once you achieve success in something, there's a market there where people want to know how you did what you did. Make sense? And they will pay for that. Okay, they will pay for that expertise, that knowledge in any industry. In any industry, if you get good in the industry, you can then sell that knowledge to other people in the industry, even your competitors. You can be a consultant if you wanted to, and leverage yourself even more. So, making sense? So some of you have a business right now, and you say, well, I need to probably sack some clients. Or you got the option, given the option, they need to upgrade to A or B clients. So you need to come through and create your criteria. What is your ideal clients? What do you want them to do? Okay? And part of this is to know your client. Some people say, Jamie, you say to them, what is their client? What is your client? They'll go, well, everyone is my client. Well, that's usually a sign the business is in trouble. Okay? If they think everyone is their client, are they very good marketers, yes or no? How focused is that market? There is no focus. Everyone is your client. Bullshit. It's not the way it is. There's specific people who are going to be your better quality clients in specific markets. Unless you know who they are and segment them and target them and focus, you're going to have a business that you're not in control of. It's like, a lot of people sit there in business and hope someone walks into their shop. And no one walks in their shop to say, well, this business doesn't work. It's not the business that doesn't work, is it? It's the person. In other words, there's two types of marketing. If you can be in some industries, you're lucky, you can actually have a corner store and people come in and don't do any marketing. I don't know many businesses that don't have to do any marketing, it just happens. Very few. Okay? And if it's in, you generally have to pay a lot of money for a franchise or something like that. Generally, you're going to have to go out and get the business, true? Generally, you have to go out and target an industry or target a marketplace and have them come to you. Okay? The ones that just show up as a bonus. And now with the internet, etc., the same thing. Most people are going to find you through Google or through the internet. You need to understand how that works. Okay? So let's go back to the marketing funnel. So the point, what we're trying to do here is that you don't want to be a beggar. You want to be in demand. Okay? So you want to set yourself up where you have more people, okay, more people wanting to do business than you can afford to work with. So therefore, you're in control and you say, I can't deal with everyone. So this is what they have to do to qualify in order to be a client with you, with your business. So out of here, what's going to happen is they're going to filter through. X percentage of these prospects will become a client. They will filter through. Now, one of the best filters we talked about earlier this morning is you can charge what? You can charge more. So one of the best filters is price. Price is a great filter. Because once again, if you want to get rid of C clients, sometimes what you can do is if you charge more, they'll disappear anyhow. C and D clients, they'll go away. So sometimes by charging more is one way to sack some of your clients, they'll just go away. Because they're whinging about the price anyhow, just charge more. They'll go away and leave you alone. And then you go after the A and B clients, aren't worried about price. What they want is value. They want reliability. They want a company that they can deal with, they can trust, they have a relationship with, that will deliver whatever you're delivering, that can meet the promise. Make sense? And then you'll be successful. Okay, so price is one way to filter. Another is criteria. You just create a criteria to work with, to be accepted as a client. You must fill in this application, or you must meet this particular criteria, and you create whatever that criteria is. Okay, and that way you're minimizing, but you're getting the quality clients that you want. To do that, of course, you have to fill the top of the funnel. So how do you do that? How do you rapidly grow a business where you can get a lot more prospects wanting to do business with you than you can afford to do that? Well, the simple thing is this. What you're going to do is jot this down. The word is free. We spend a lot of time on this tomorrow as well. The word is free. I've alluded to that a few times. The word is free. What does that mean? It means the way you fill the top of your funnel rapidly, zero cost, is you give something away for free. For nothing. Now, there's two types of schools of thought on this. Those who are under 30 years of age and those that are over 30. I won't ask you to put your hand up which category you fit into. I'm going to take a guess. So those who are over 30 years of age would go, when someone says something's for free, they go, well, there's no such thing as a free lunch, and there's probably a catch to it. True? Over 30s would think that. Those under 30 would go, no, of course there's things for free. I get everything for free on the internet. That's the way I've grown up with free, and there's no catch to free. Free is just the way I expect it to be free. True? Two different levels of thinking, because in the past, we're told, those 30 plus is that, yeah, free is just a marketing ploy. Okay? The younger generation understand, no, free. A lot of companies, the whole product is given away for free completely. Google, how much do you pay to use Google? Here's the company, the second most popular, used to be the most popular website on the planet, and they give their service away for free. Okay? What about, but think about that, is that really new? If you go back, TV, when TV come out, how much do you pay to watch TV? Okay? TV was free, right? Free to air. Now think about this. People have a hide to bitch and moan about the fact that there's commercials on TV. But think about it. Here we are. These TV stations spend, on average, $2 million up to $2 million to produce an episode for 22 minutes filled up with ads for 30-minute show. And we get all this entertainment for free. That's cost a fortune just to entertain us. And an ad comes on and we bitch and moan about it and change the channel. But you can see how this creates a culture of expectation. Jot that down. Expectation. And you wonder why we have a poor wealth mentality in this country. Because what sometimes creates a problem, if people get things for free, they start to expect things for free, and they have an expectation they should get something for nothing. And as a result of that, we subconsciously create a culture where people are lazy and people expect something for nothing. And we know in the real world it doesn't work that way, does it? If you want something, you generally have to put time and effort and energy into getting it. Okay, but so the free to air was that was based on an advertising model. Google's the same thing. It's based on an advertising model. They'll give you the service for free, and they have literally billion plus people using their service, and they will have ads on there, and that's how they make 90% of their income. Very good business model. But they reshaped the advertising industry. Pay per click. You pay when someone comes to your website or comes to your business, where TV advertising is, you pay whether anyone comes to your business or not. They would just, because they are in demand, TV in demand, people want to advertise, are able to charge whatever they want pretty much and not have to deliver. And that's why the colleague I was talking about, a guy I met last week, was able to take people from Yellow Pages in New Zealand, $50,000 a year, across to Google. They're happy to do that. And he was able to make the difference in between, because Google delivered more than what Yellow Pages delivering for $50,000 for $3,000. And he could arbitrage and make the difference. Making sense? So that's the change of what Google did to an industry. My point is saying this, is some of you are saying, how can I rapidly grow my business? I'm going to suggest to you, jot this down, that you should be considering, and we're going to go into some detail tomorrow, some examples, to give things away for free. Possibly even your product for free. Jamie, you don't understand. How can I do that? Well, if you can't afford to give your product away for free, you're going to give something around it for free or something else for free. Now, a lot of companies do that. Is it true? They'll give away free downloads, free samples, free trial, free books, free reports, free subscription, free recipes, free consultations, free appraisals, free review, on and on and on, okay? In other words, what they're doing is they're saying, one, they're taking away some of the risk. They're saying, we'll give you something first for nothing, so then if you like what we do, then you may consider becoming a client. So they have heaps of prospects up here, and see, if only 5% of those people can become a client. See, some people are like, well, I want everyone I speak to become a client, every prospect. No, you don't. You want to just have, if only 5% qualify or convert to becoming a client, then you can rapidly grow your business by giving away something free and reaching a large amount of people. Okay? If you want more clients, just reach more people. If only 5%, that's fine. You can make a lot of money that you have more clients you know what to do with. Other people are trying to go for the 95 and convert 95% of these people and wasting their time. Okay? Go for it. You only need a small percentage to build a successful business. Your goal should be, one, to add value. So if you're giving away something free, can that add a lot more value to society? Now, the internet, the future models demand things for free. So whether you like it or not, Jamie, I'm not sure I can give something away for free. You're not going to have a choice. Your industry is heading towards zero, most of you. The world is heading towards zero. It's the race to zero, the race to something for free. In other words, the internet, how many industries now change where people used to pay for things that are so much cheaper? Okay, we're going to give some examples of this tomorrow, but of so many businesses have been turned upside down because of the internet. Because on the internet, you can deliver things often for nothing. A digital download, how much does it cost to deliver? Once it's created, nothing, pretty much nothing. So you can download things on the internet. So because you can give things away for virtually free, or sometimes costs absolutely nothing, there's more and more companies that can give things away for free. Now, some industries will fight this. The classic one was the music industry. Is that true? Yep. Napster come along and was allowing people to pirate music. And Sheryl Crow and the music industry were going ballistic. They're ripping off our intellectual property. This has to be stopped. Well, the new rules of the game aren't interested in the old rules. The new rules of the game are, you as a consumer, if you can get free music, you're going to take it, aren't you? Yep. If you can go to Thailand and get cheap DVDs, you're going to take it. Okay. Well, now you can download them, etc. You're going to take it. Do you feel like a white-collar criminal that should go to jail? Yes or no? I'm sure you appreciate that the artists, etc., need to get paid, but the world changes and moves whether you like it or not, and the internet changed. So those who are fighting, the music industry was fighting, mainly those who had the most vested interests, the big record labels, etc., were fighting that we have to stop this, have to stop. No, you don't. The ones that were smart and jumped on the bandwagon and gave away their things for free have done really well. Because you look what happens now. A lot of the singers, they will give away some of their singles for free. Actually, in Brazil, a whole new industry is being created. They're very clever. What they do is bands, if they want to get marketed, they will create a CD, a nice CD pack, and they'll give it to a lot of the people that sell via the markets in Brazil. A lot of things are sold through the markets. They will let them sell their music and keep all the money. Is that clever? And then sometimes what you can do is give all your margin away on your first product. It's called, jot this down, a loss leader. So you can either give it for free or you can sell your product at a loss. It's called a loss leader because you're going to make it at the back end. Why would these musicians create a whole industry of creating CDs and giving it to street vendors, say in Brazil, which is a thriving market of this, and allow the street vendors to sell it for whatever they want and keep all the money? It's free promotion, isn't it? They know when they come to that city or that region, if already before they've gone there months ahead and all the street vendors have sold their music like crazy because you've got motivated salespeople, you're giving them 100% of the margin, they would have sold heaps of those, so they've got exposure. So those people that got a CD are more likely to come and pay to attend the concert. Does that make sense? And now musicians or singers make more from the concerts than they do from CDs. Or, they're selling their music tracks. Make sense? Because there's more money. In the past, the record labels used to control all that. And they used to make the big margins, like TV stations, the big margins, where now Google took a lot of their margin away. Okay? And that's why Channel 7 bought my friend's competing company, Online Business, because they want the new media. They want to capture that advertising market. They have to move to new media. Okay? So there's a few things. So loss leader is one thing you're going to look at with your product or service. Is some companies will give away a product or reduce the sale price, but you get a massive amount of people here because what they've figured out is over time their customers will continue to come back. So jot this down. The word you're after, some of you will be familiar with this, some of you wouldn't. The word you're after is the lifetime value of a customer. The lifetime value of a customer. If you're going to become good at marketing, the first question you have to understand, what is the lifetime value of your customer? How much is a customer worth? Because a customer is an acquisition. Customer is an investment. A database is worth money. Because a relationship, goodwill, brand, loyalty is built. So that is worth money. So how much is the lifetime value of a customer? So what we're going to look at as we go in tomorrow, because I'm going to finish up shortly today, we're going to go through and look at how do you extend the lifetime value of your customer. You're going to workshop this with yourself as well, either on a business you have now or a business you want to create. You've just got to get the concept. So if you can get the life, say, how can I extend the value of my customer? There's only 3 ways to grow a business. We're going to look at it in the morning. But there's only 3 ways to do that. So we're going to extend the value of the customer, okay? And you're going to get an idea what each customer's worth. You need to know that because you can go, well, if each customer, let me give you an example. Stefan Hair Salons. Never heard of Stefan? If you're in Queensland, it's huge. Ads are accepted. Who's from Queensland? Probably no one in Melbourne. Stefan Hair Salons. So what he did to grow his business is that, and this is the abundance versus scarcity model. He became a multi-millionaire and a very well-known face in Queensland. So what he did was this. He figured out he had empty hair salons, not enough people coming in the door. And he's already paying the rent, he's paying the hairdressers, he's paying the infrastructure costs, whether they have a few clients or a heap of clients. So he might as well get more clients in the door. So what they did years ago with a massive campaign, they would go out and give away, so the hairdressers got not many clients there, they had to go out in the streets, out in the shopping centres, and give out vouchers of free haircuts. He said, if we're going broke anyhow, we might as well go broke giving away free haircuts. You know, his attitude, the risk, like, I'm going to go broke if I don't do something different. So they went out and gave away free haircuts, okay? Did they target men more or women, do you think? Target women because they know the target market where the money is, right? They get both, but predominantly target women. So as a result, they gave away heaps of free haircuts. Once again, what is he doing? Is he filling up the top of his marketing funnel? Instead of sitting there with empty stores, all of a sudden now he has more people wanting to come than can fit in. So he can put a condition on the giveaway, the voucher, whatever the condition might be, okay? And as a result of that, the cost of giving away the free haircut is minimal. He's already paying the cost anyhow of people being there. So as a result of that, he could work out how much it's going to cost him to give away a free haircut. But he knows this. If X percentage, and now of course what he would do, did this initially, he did it on a test and measure. You might just test and measure around one shop, right? So test and measure so you see how it works so you can start to work out the conversions. Because what you want to create is, let's say out of every 100 people that, to get 100 people to come in for a free haircut, they may have had to give away 1,000 vouchers. Make sense? As an example. And 10% of them actually took the offer up and come into a hair salon. Out of 100 haircuts, let's say it costs him $8 a haircut, how much does it cost him? $800 in effectively a marketing expense, but he's going to go broke if he doesn't do something significantly and different. So out of that 100 customers, let's say he finds out that 50 of them come back for another haircut or come back to see him again. Okay? Now, the value of those customers, now here's the interesting thing. Women, your current hairdresser, who's been seeing their current hairdresser for more than 6 months? Raise your hand. Okay, women I'm asking. All the women all you women put your hand up in the room. Put your hand up in the room. Okay, put your hand down if you've changed hairdressers in the last 6 months. Okay, who's been seeing a hairdresser for more than 12 months? Okay, more than 2 years. Yeah, longer, more than 2 years, more than 5 years. See what now? If I ask guys, it'd be a very different story because guys have no loyalty to a hairdresser. Zero. Do we care who cuts our hair? Generally not. Okay. We just want it cut. Okay. Okay. Some metrosexuals might be different. Okay. But we just want our hair cut. The point is, women will generally, once they develop a relationship with a hairdresser, they will see them for life, or certainly a long period of time, unless they have to move. The hairdresser has to do something dramatically wrong for them to go. Because it's not just a hairdresser, it's a counselor, it's a friend. You know, they know everything about you because women go to get their hair cut and also to talk, okay? That's what women do. So the point is, if it's more female clients, if you get a client to come back once and they now become a client for life or client for 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, the lifetime value of that client. Also, do women spend more on a haircut or whatever they get done at a hairdresser's than men? Yes or no? So much more that one woman took a hair salon to court for sexist discrimination. Because if you're a guy, you get your hair cut for 20, 30, 40, $50, right? depending where you're going. A woman will spend $100, $150, $200, $300 on their hair, whatever they get done with their hair. True? So a woman gets charged a lot more because she's a woman. Okay, but women have a higher perceived value. Segmented marketing. Women will pay more because they see a more value and it's more important for a woman to look good. Okay, guys, we don't really have to do much to look good, is that right? Okay, we just show up, charming, rugged, Women, it's important for women to look good. Not to impress us guys, don't think they do it to impress us, okay? They do it to impress other women generally, is it true? Because women tend to be much more competitive than guys. So the point being, the lifetime value of a female customer in a hair salon is worth a lot more than a guy. Okay, and they'll spend a lot more money. So the amount that they, 50 clients come back, let's say then you start to break that down, 40 of them might become a client for the average 2 years, as an example. And they will spend by X amount of dollars over that 2-year period. I mean, how much would a woman spend in a year? A woman at a hairdresser, could they spend $2,000 in a year? Well, they spend $200. How often do you go? Every 6 weeks? I know women that go every week. Some women could spend $2,000. Actually, some of you don't want to actually tell the truth because if you had to think of it, it'd be go shit. Okay? Put it this way, it's a lot more than you imagine. But is there women out there that would spend $2,000 a year on hair? Easy, trust me. You start to add up over the course of a year how much each customer is for life, the cost of giving away something for free and the return on that over the course of the year. Okay, 40 customers spent $2,000. Let's say come to 80,000 as the example. Would you spend $800 to generate 80,000 in revenue? Yes or no? Who would do that? So you would do that once you do the numbers on the small scale. You can test and measure. Jot this down. What you're looking at is what's called client acquisition. Client acquisition. Once you know what a customer is worth to you over the lifetime of your customer business, then you can decide and go as an investor. It's just like being an investor. If my clients are worth, $2,000 a year in gross revenue, and that equals $1,000 in profit, okay, and it costs me $8 in this example. If it costs me $8 to get a new customer by giving away a free haircut as an example, and that's worth, what did we say, $2,000, but the net of that is, say, $1,000 profit for the year. If you can invest $8 and get $1,000 back within 12 months, how many $8 would you now go and invest in? Make sense? The acquisition of your customer is such a return on investment. You'll go out and buy more customers. Make sense? You will buy more customers by saying, what can I afford to give away, pay for, etc., to get a customer in the first place? Now, what helps with this is that you can then extend the value of this client. Because what Stefan did also was then he'd have his whole own range of beauty care and healthcare products, branded and higher margin. So he would be able to sell those products to his customers as well. He'd be able to expand that, so he'd be able to add additional products to what he did. Not just sell your products, but brand and white label other products and expand what you do. So if you can extend the lifetime value of a client, you can massively expand the overall turnover of the business. Repeat after me. Thing to think about. So it's very critical in what you're doing. What we're talking about here, I'm just covering in some nutshell. We'll go into some more detail tomorrow as we drill down into this. But I want you to understand that each of these little things we're looking at doing here can have, we're not talking 10% gain on your business. If you could understand a way to rapidly fill the top of your funnel and a way to extend the lifetime value of your business, okay, the 3 ways to grow a business we'll go through in the morning, then you can geometrically increase the profits of your business. I shared just one way, what we talked about this morning in my mum's coffee shop, just by putting up the price by 10%, increased her bottom line by 300%. If we combine a synergy of these effects upon a business, you can dramatically grow a business, okay? So that's what we're going to go into tomorrow morning. We're going to be taking how long's the break at the moment? We got just a moment. I think we've got a short 10-minute break. Yep, 10-minute break. So enough time for a bathroom break, and then we've got some outstanding speakers for you to share some interesting things with you that's very important in business. Does this make sense so far? Okay. Now, what we want to do is look at how does that relate. And I'm going to give you some examples tomorrow of ways successful businesses that have been built by using this model. Now, this is something I've been doing in my business career for well over a decade. But now the new rules of the game, it's ironic how this is now the only way for most people to build a business. The word free is everything. That's what the world's demanding. Now, if you can try and fight it in your industry, but it's going to change because the internet is changing the rules of the world. Some of the most successful businesses on the planet now give away their product for free. How much do you pay to use Facebook? It's free. It's worth $52 billion, and they give their product away for free. Some of you like resistant going, Jeremy, I can't give my product away for free, or how can I make money from that? Okay, we've got to think outside the box. We'll go through some countless examples tomorrow so you can start to see if you want to rapidly grow a business, how you can give things away for free, and even give your whole business product away for free. And if how you make money from that. You go, because there's a lot of changes happening on the internet that make this possible. Okay, very good. So, any questions? Yeah, we'll just get a mic. That way the people at home watching this on home study will be able to hear the question. Yep.
Okay, so as part and parcel with that, can we also go through, Facebook, for example, doesn't generate any income per se, yet it's worth 50 billion. So how does that happen exactly?
Okay, so there's a couple of things that we'll go through that tomorrow also when we talk about this, because there'll be all the people that are against free, or not only that, the obstacles to overcome. First of all, Facebook, when it first started its business model, did not know how to monetize it, didn't know whether it would actually ever make money. Okay, actually, Facebook now actually does make a lot of money. It does over $1 billion in sales and growing rapidly. It's only in recent times it's really tapped into that. So it's now actually making money. But they went on faith. Mark Zuckerberg's idea was that just build it and they will come. Okay, hopefully it makes money. Okay, now the people that are having to control the money and raise the capital probably go, it's easy for him to say that, but it's like, this better work. Okay, otherwise, but still, Facebook knew this. If they've got about 600 million users, they'll eventually have 1 billion users. To get to 1 billion users will cost them, they'll burn through about $1 billion in capital. So you say, well, if it costs $1 billion to get 1 billion users, is that worthwhile investment for client acquisition? Even if they don't know how to monetize it? Yes, because other companies out there would happily buy 1 billion customers, a database of 1 billion people using something, because they'd figure out some way to monetize it. Okay. However, in saying that, there's other companies like Twitter, etc., that it's a free service that aren't yet making a lot of money, but they are getting better at monetizing, all these companies now. But they're still worth a lot of money. Because when I talk about, same with what Richard Branson has, some companies that have not made a profit, he's still profited from. Because generally you have to make a profit to make money from a business, but not always. And we'll talk on that tomorrow. Yeah. Make sense? Very good. Big day so far. Lots of ideas. What I want you to understand is that, and we're going to go into more specifics, but if you start to get an idea, it's just one of these shifts in thinking. Now, some of you might get stuck and go, I don't know how that relates to my business. You've got to start thinking and get creative and say, how does this relate to my business? Or ask some questions, I'll give you some ideas. And that's what we'll go through more in tomorrow as we go into the drill, is start to thinking about it. Because it does relate to business. Or it may not relate to your specific business right now, you don't know how to do it. You need to be like Apple and ask a better question. What business are we in? And start thinking outside the box. What you are is just, you're only like a second or two away from what we call a marketing breakthrough, where you get that distinction, you change your whole strategy of your company, and your company can just take off in a whole new direction. And you get such rampant growth from the new way of doing things differently. And that's what it is, just that one idea. It's like, bang, maybe I can do this. And then what you're going to do, you get the idea, you're going to test and measure first. Is it true? Test and measure to get it work, because you don't want to go out to market in a big way if the pricing's wrong or the margins are wrong or it doesn't quite work that way. You need to maybe fine-tune it. You fine-tune it, like if you're in a franchise, they would test it on 1 or 2 stores. What works, that works. That's what McDonald's does all the time. McDonald's will test on some stores or some countries, okay, and see how it works, and then they'll roll it out worldwide. Okay, you test and measure campaign, and all of a sudden, boom, you get that shift in growth. Now, McDonald's, as an example, as a company, has been around for 40, 50 years, but still they're finding a way to continue to grow sales, to continually innovate. So if they're around 40, 50 years and your business has been around 1, 2, 5, or 10 years, do you think you can still innovate, yes or no? Absolutely. There's heaps of ways to innovate. Remember, wealth is between your two ears. It's rarely out there, it's here. It's how can you do things differently to have those breakthroughs. And then it's those consistent breakthroughs, boom, to a whole new level. Okay, everyone, turn to the person next to you, just teach them how the marketing funnel works. We'll finish it tomorrow morning, okay? Or we're gonna go for a 10-minute break now, aren't we, Joel? Okay, so you have a 10-minute break. Give yourselves a huge hand.